Wow, thank you very much. Hello, hello everybody. Hello Michigan, hello. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, we're not going to have this too much longer. You know, we're winding down. 9 years we've been doing it, right? And now we're winding down, and hopefully we'll be going to the next phase, which is turning our country around. Because we've got a little bit of a mess to take care of, don't we, huh? A little bit of a mess. But we'll get it done, and we'll get it done right. But we're going to miss these rallies, aren't we, huh? But there'll be even better rallies in a different form. I think we'll say that, right? Front row Joes. They'll be even better, but they'll be in a different form, and really the form that we want. That's what we've been striving for. We have to get out and vote, everybody. Don't take any chances, because Kamala's never going to be able to do it. She won't be able to do it. Not even a thought of doing it. Doesn't know how to do it, doesn't even know how to say to do it. We cannot take any chances, so you got to get out to vote. And I can only say that it's been the experience of a lifetime for a lot of us. Some of you have been to 300 rallies. I see these people. And you're going to look back at this time in life, you know, and you're going to say there was something very, very special about what we all did together. We all did it together. There's never been anything like it. We'll have everything so good and fixed up and perfect. We'll have everything perfect. And then in 4 years, somebody will come down, and that person's going to be hot as a pistol. And you know what they're going to draw? About 300 people. That's what you draw. A politician draws 250, 300, if they're good. If they're bad, they draw like 8 people, like Biden used to draw, right? Remember, he used to fill up. Remember the circles? He couldn't fill up the circle, so he used the fake news media to fill up the circles. But no, it's different, but there'll never be, in the world, there'll never be anything like what we've done. We've done something that's unprecedented, and we've had fun, but now we have to get, hopefully, to work. We got to win. You got to get out and vote. And then we're going to do a real job for you all, and we're going to meet again many times, I hope. But this has been the thrill of a lifetime for me and for you and for everybody. And now we want to take that thrill and turn it into let's do business, right? Let's do business. So it's great to be back in this beautiful state with thousands of proud, hardworking American patriots. And I'd like to begin by asking a very simple question. I've been doing that lately because it seems so poignant. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? I don't think so. I don't think so. It's been, is that one of the easiest questions you've ever been asked by? But I've come today with a message of hope for all Americans. With your vote, this election, most important election you've ever even thought about voting in, I will end inflation. I will stop the invasion of criminals pouring into our country. And I will bring back the American dream. I'm going to bring it back. You know, yesterday we had a long day. We started out before 7 in the morning. We went to New Mexico. You know, it's sort of in play because the people can't take it anymore. The people are pouring through the border. That's a real border state. But you're a border state in a different sense. Everybody is a border. Every state is a border state. We have criminals coming in from, they fly them in now to the Midwest. Isn't that nice of them? Kamala. And you said to yourself, who the hell would want to do it? And so many of those people are hardened criminals coming out of prisons, jails, mental institutions. But this is all you need to know. Kamala, who's grossly incompetent, broke it. I will fix it. We're going to fix it. We're going to fix it quickly. America will be bigger, better, bolder, richer, safer, and stronger than ever before. This election is a choice between whether we live and have 4 more years of gross incompetence and failure, or whether we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. We'll get it going fast. We're going to get it going very fast. And I'm asking you to be excited about the future of your country. Be excited. It's been hard to say, but now we're down to 4 days. 4 days. Right? Front row Joe? No, I mean, if you think, we're down to 4 days. Wow. We thought it would never come, right? We thought it would never come. I'm asking you to dream big again. You have to dream big. It's hard for you to think of that because you've been so hurt by these incompetent fools that have been running our country. This will be America's new golden age. Every problem facing us can be solved, and it's going to be solved quickly. But now the fate of our nation is in your hands, and it really is. You got to vote. You got to vote. Don't believe the polls that were way up or were pretty far up, but a couple of them way up. One gentleman, a great pollster, they say, he said, we have a 97% chance of winning. I said, don't believe it. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. I think he's a Democrat because nothing matters except what happens on Tuesday when you think of it, right? All doesn't matter. So just pretend that we're 1 point down. We're not. We're up. But pretend that we're 1 point down. On Tuesday, you have to stand up and you have to tell Kamala that you've had enough. You can't take it anymore. You're the worst vice president in history. You're the worst border czar in the history of the world. We're not going to let you destroy our country. Kamala, you're fired. Get the hell out of here. Thank you. She shouldn't even be in this fight. She shouldn't be. She doesn't deserve it. The guy got, look, whether you like him or not, he got 14 million votes. He won the primaries. Then they walked in, they told him, you're out. He had a debate, which was a little rough. And then no, but that's his prerogative. It just happens, right? And they walked in, they said, you're out. And he said, no, I'm not. I won't leave. You're out. Get the hell out. You're out. And they were not nice to him, by the way. I know exactly what went on. Don't forget, I know all those people that are in the surrounds very well. They were rough with Joe Biden. And think of it, he got 14 million votes, and they're telling him, get the hell out. And then they give it to her, and she came in last in the Democrat primary, right? She came in last. She was 22 people, Mr. Ambassador, 22 people. Think of it, 22 people. She was the first one to drop out. I guess that means she came in last. She never made it to the great state of Iowa during their primaries, and then we're running against her. It's actually not fair to him. It's really not fair to him. That's no way. He's got the right. Who cares? Who said that? That's a great line. Who the hell said that? That's he goes, I'm going, I've become such a nice guy all of a sudden. I say, it's not fair to him. And this guy shouts out, who cares? Who the hell cares? Who cares about him? I guess he happens to be right. That's very good. Thank you for adding so much spice. That was a good line of stuff. Who cares? But he did get screwed, let's face it. No, they came in. They should have picked somebody else. They could have picked the one that came in first, runner-up. You picked first. You know who that would be? Crooked Bernie, right? Crooked Bernie. Crooked Bernie Sanders, he got screwed twice. He got screwed with Hillary. I think he's one of the best sports, though, because he got terribly taken advantage of with Hillary, and she won, and he went back, and he just kept being very liberal. By the way, he's far less liberal than Kamala. You know that, right? She's rated the worst, most liberal, crazy person in the U.S. Senate. She's more so than even Pocahontas, who's very, remember, she said, my mother told I was an Indian. How do you know you're an Indian? Because my mother told me I have high cheekbones. You believe it? I actually think that's a racist comment that she made. I think that's a racist comment. Everything we have been fighting for these past 4 years comes down to the next 4 days. Can you believe it, right? We've been setting records in the early voting, but we can't let up. In-person voting in Michigan ends on Sunday, and if you're not going to make that, you got to get there on Tuesday. Okay, who's voted? So who's going to vote? All right, 60-40, that's not bad. That's a lot of votes. You got to get the hell out and vote. Because it's now or never. If we don't do it, it's never going to happen again. You know, there are those that say that if we don't win this election, you may never have another election in this country again. That's a possibility with these radical left lunatics that we're dealing with. Crazy, crazy Nancy. You want to marry me? She wants to marry me. What the hell's... Well, let me ask the First Lady if that would be okay, because it's okay with me, but I have to get permission. Thank you. That's cute, actually. So get everyone you know. Vote, vote, vote. Get everyone you know. There's a woman named Jane. I saw her backstage. She's got a husband who's not in good shape at all. And I asked her, are you going to vote? Yes, sir. And I asked the husband, are you going to vote? Well, I don't know. We have a game. And he said, no, this is the biggest game of all. This is 1,000 times. You know, what we're doing is 1,000 times bigger than the Super Bowl. It is. When the NFL has a problem, they had a big problem with Canada, big problem. Canada was actually taking advantage of the NFL for years, and they couldn't get it solved. You know what they did? They called the president, and I got it solved in like 2 minutes. I got it solved in 2 minutes. This is 100 times. They fought for 21 years with Canada. I got it solved in 2 minutes. They never even said, thank you. They didn't say thank you. With your help, we're going to defeat Kamala Harris, and we're going to make America great again. I'm studying my hair. It looks not so good today. It's not a good hair day, but who cares? Not a good hair day for me. Ay, ay, ay. Oh. I don't want to look. But we have breaking news. It's actually bad news. It's only good for one thing. If you happen to be running against the stupid fools that created this news, it's bad news. Bad news for the country. It was just announced a little while ago that brand new jobs report proves decisively that Kamala Harris and Crooked Joe have driven our economy off a cliff. And if she gets 4 more years, your family is you're never gonna recover from these stupid people, because we're being taken advantage of by every country all over the world, including our allies. And in many cases, our allies are worse than our so-called enemies, okay, on trade. Nationwide, this just came out. Listen to this. You got to study these numbers, right? Does anybody have a pencil? Please take it down. Nationwide, the economy created, this is the lowest number in years, a pitiful 12,000 jobs last month. Whoa. Hundreds of thousands of jobs less than what it should be. I never heard of 12,000 jobs. That's not even believable. And when they revise it downward in a few weeks, it will be much lower than that. They'll have to revise it downward. And just think, this is not good news for them. I mean, how would you like to have an election in 4 days and you just had the worst jobs report in the history of our country, practically? No, think of it. You're running for office. They announce, you know the best thing they have going? The fake news, because they won't even write about it. The fake news. The fake news won't even write about it. By the way, how good was Bobby Kennedy Jr.? How good was he? And he's so into health and all. He's going to take care of women's health and men's health and your children's health. I said, you could do anything. You just go ahead and enjoy yourself. But just do me one favor. Leave the liquid gold alone. Let me handle that. We're going to make a fortune. We're going to make, Bobby, please leave that alone, Bobby. Just let me handle that. Oh, we're going to make so much money. But just think, a few months ago, they fraudulently claimed, do you remember this? 2 months ago, 818,000 jobs were created when, in fact, there were none. It was a fraud. There was a fraud. And people reported it to the FBI, but the FBI decided to do nothing. Are you shocked to hear that? It was a total lie, and they thought they'd be able to get away with it right through the election. But fortunately, there was a person known as a whistleblower. I know I like whistleblowers on occasion. And they were forced to admit it 3 weeks ago that they created 818,000 fraudulent jobs. They were fake jobs. And everybody said, oh, the economy's finally coming back. No, it's not coming back. They were fake jobs. If I did that, they would impeach me. They would say, let's impeach him. But now they've just revised past jobs, okay, by an additional 118. Now, they just announced yesterday that they're going to have to reduce them again by 112,000 because they were fake jobs too. This administration is a big, fat con job. The whole thing is dishonest. It's all misinformation and disinformation. That's almost 1 million fake jobs that never were here. And they wanted to wait. How would you feel if you said, well, our economy's okay, and then we vote, and we have an election, and let's say they win. I can't even imagine it, but let's say they win, and then 2 days later they announced that there were 1 million jobs that were phony. How would you like that, John James? No good, right? Huh? No good. We got to do something about it. They never do anything about it. We never do. These are fraudulent people. No, but how would you like, the election's over, and we have this person that nobody ever, you hear Harris. Harris. Who the hell is Harris? Nobody even knows who the hell she is. Who the hell is she? Nobody knows who the hell she is. Harris. Ladies and gentlemen, President Harris. Who the hell is Harris? It's true. Ladies and gentlemen, Harris came in by announcing 1 million jobs more than existed. It's a fake. Like 2 days after the election, you feel down, you lost an election, and how about the other side? The other side is saying, man, they said they had a great thing going. They just announced 1 million jobs more than they had. They didn't have 1 million jobs. These are terrible people. I'm telling you, they're terrible people. But let's bring it all together. We love everybody, right? No, we don't, actually. How about her? She's always talking about, no, I want to bring the country together. Trump is Hitler. Excuse me, I shouldn't have said that. No, she's always saying, I want to go on peace, and we want to get together as a country. And, you know, the Trump people are garbage, total garbage. Oh. But we want to get together, and Trump is Hitler, and they're all racist, and they're all this, and they're all that. But we want to have peace, so we want to get along. I don't even know if she knows what the hell she's saying, but it's pathetic. So Kamala failed, economic agenda, wiped out nearly 30,000 private sector jobs just recently, and nearly 50,000 manufacturing jobs just over the last short period of time. Did you know that? You lost 50,000 manufacturing jobs. That's better with a mic. That's better. Thank you, backstage. These mic guys, I'm telling you, I'm having a lot of problems with mics lately. I'm not happy. Get yourself a new contractor, please. And don't pay the bill for this contractor. And then they'll write a story, Trump doesn't pay bills. I pay bills. You know what I do? I pay more than I'm supposed to when they can do a good job. But when they don't do a good job, don't pay your damn bill. That's my first. Man. I got to do these speeches like 3-4 times a day for 62 days almost. And then on top of it, I have a mic that doesn't work half the time. All right. Our manufacturing sector is now in very severe recession. Almost 100,000 manufacturing jobs are killed since the start of the year. Think of that. Think of that. 100,000. That's a lot of jobs, especially when you add on the fraudulent almost 1 million jobs, right? So that's 1.1 million. 150,000 Americans joined the unemployment rolls last month. You know that? You don't hear that from these fake news people because they don't report it. They don't report it. They don't report it, just like they don't show how many people are in this room because they don't do it. Just like they don't show the videos. A friend of mine, you know, we do videos now. We made a little money. We bought some things for like $1 million. Can you believe it? I spent $1 million for some screens so you people could see better. Right? Oh, think of it. Think of it. And you know the problem? I have a friend, he's watching. A number of people called me. They said, we loved your rally last night. It's too bad we couldn't see the videos. What do you mean you couldn't see the videos? He said, they don't put them on. I said, of course they do. But they don't. You know why? Because they're told not to. And they're told not to show the crowd size where you go from room to room, from place to place. We never have an empty seat, and nobody leaves early. But we never have an empty, you know what? We never have an empty seat. But I said, I want to have them show. Oh, we have it out with them all the time. A friend of mine said they don't show the thing. And think of the cameras, right? All they have to do is right there. There's the screen, there's the screen. All they have to do is 1 inch right, ding. 1 inch up, ding. And they can see it, but they don't want to do that because they don't want to show, because they're fake news. That's why they're fake news. And most importantly, nearly 250,000 people dropped out of the labor force last month. Can you believe this? We're in a depression. You better hope you vote for me because I'm going to get you out of it fast. But under these losers, it's only going to get worse. This would only get worse. This was only get worse. You're not going to have a country left. Honestly, if you don't vote for Trump, you're not going to have a country left. Under Kamala's nation-wrecking policies, the American worker is absolutely drowning. You're drowning. You're not going to have your job very soon. And that stupid fool at United Auto Workers, that poor, stupid fool that runs the union, he said, yes, we'll go. He agreed to all electric cars. And I said they wouldn't work 5 months ago. And you know what? Now they don't work. I mean, look, all electric. Electric cars are great, but for a certain percentage of people, okay? You don't force it on everybody, nor do you say everybody has to have a hybrid, which are also great, or an all-gasoline-powered car. The only thing we don't want is a hydrogen car, because hydrogen, if somebody said, well, they don't work, but very seldom, sir. I said, what is seldom? Well, you know, once every 2 or 3 weeks. Well, what happens if it doesn't work? Sir, the person is unrecognizable. The person in the car or people in the car are absolutely unrecognizable. It's like a major bomb went off but we're working on the problem. I said, just, I have no interest in hydrogen. Whoever the hell's working on hydrogen, we don't want a hydrogen car. Can you imagine? You call the wife, there's your husband alone, the tree. I don't see him. The tree's bright red. I don't see him. The data shows that 100% of all net job gains, listen to this, think of it, it's all gone to the migrants, along with African-American jobs are at the worst, one of the worst levels. They're all going to migrants, the African-American. When you see those numbers, that's the numbers your fake news ought to show you, because they're going to come out with numbers right after the elections. It's going to show that all those people that illegally come across the border with their open border policy are taking the African-American jobs away. So. Now, can you imagine? So, you know, guys have jobs for 20 years. They've got a family. They have everything. They're doing a good job. They're good people, good workers. And their jobs are being taken away by people that just came in. And it's not right. Hispanic jobs also, to a lesser extent. Union jobs will be affected, not yet, but they will be very much so. But the African-American jobs, you ought to tell them to go get you the real numbers, because when you see this, it's going to be probably after the election. You're going to be really angry. You're going to say, you know, I wish I voted for Trump. He got me criminal justice reform. He got me the colleges, historically black colleges and universities. I took care of them. I took care of them. I took care of them. You know, every year they'd come to Washington, the heads of the nice guys, a lot of nice people, actually. After 2 years, I said, why do you guys keep coming to Washington? These were the heads of the colleges, black colleges, and very important group of schools, actually. And great people that I got to really like some of them. Some of them became friends of mine. And in the third year, I said, you're here again. Why are you here? I never asked them the first 2 times. Because they make us come back every year for money, because they have funding. And I said, why don't they give you a long-term deal? He said, they would never do it. I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to give you a long-term deal for more money than you're asking, because you're not asking for enough. And I got them taken care of. And I said, the only bad thing about what I'm doing is I'll never see you again. Most likely, I'll never see you again, which is sad. But you know what? It's wrong what they're doing to you. They had to come back for years and years. They came back every year, hat in hand. One guy said they make us like beggars, These are black, wonderful people that run the universities. They run the universities, you're right. So I took care of that. I took care of so many things. But remember, the criminal justice reform, I was called by some people at CNN that I'm the only one that can get it done, because I can bring some conservative votes over. And I did do that. And I got criminal justice reform done. And it was really, the black population wanted it more than anybody else, because it was very unfair what was happening, and we got it done. And I'll tell you, and I made this statement, with the exception of who? Abraham Lincoln, as president for the black population than any other president in the history of our country. But now the migrants are going to take those jobs that you have, and you should demand before the election that you see, because you'll never vote for Kamala. You never vote for her. She doesn't know what the hell she's doing. Kamala's inflation nightmare has cost a typical American family $30,000 in higher prices, and she's continuing to cost you an additional $1,100 for every single month. That's because of what they've done with inflation. They took, you know, I had no inflation. We had no inflation. We had no inflation. We went from essentially no inflation to the highest inflation in the history of our country. And then they say they're going to vote for these fools. They're not going to vote for these fools. Remember, I had virtually no, you had no problem You were making money, you were putting money away, you had money left over, you could go out shopping, and your prices weren't quadrupled for a sausage, for a piece of lettuce, for an apple. Now the prices have gone so high. Everyone tells me about the word groceries. For groceries, cars, look at the price of cars, look at the price of education. These schools I mean, they're going crazy with the education prices. They're going absolutely crazy. But I had no inflation. I had prices stable. We wouldn't put up with it. We would talk to people, too, if they, were ripping you off. We would talk to people. We had smart people, the best people. And now look at what happened. The inflation is eating everybody alive. It's eating especially our senior citizens. That's why I do no tax on Social Security benefits, because it gets you back to even. But now that very low IQ person who wants to be, have we ever had a low IQ president before? You have to know the opposition. You have to know President Xi. The press hates when I say it. I say very smart. If I use the word brilliant, they'll say, he said he's brilliant. No, he controls 1.4 billion people with an iron fist. No, he's not brilliant. But these are very smart people. These are brilliant people. These are people that like their country. Maybe they don't, but they run their country tough and smart. And we have nobody to compete with them. We have people that it's like your high school football team playing. What's a good team today? Let's see. What's a good team? What's a good team? Oh, the Detroit Lions, right? I couldn't have said that 2 years ago. Good. I got bailed out. I'm trying to say, what the hell? The worst thing you can do is mention some team that's not from the area. And I'm saying, oh, shit, I'm in Michigan. What the hell am I going to do? I'm stuck up here. See, John, she wouldn't be able to figure that out, She couldn't even get off the stage when she said, we have 32 days left. Remember? The teleprompter froze and she couldn't get off the stage. No, it's like your high school team playing the Detroit Lions. That's right. That's a pretty good team. They did a good job after so many years, right? They did a good job. See, that's what good management is. You get the right people. It's the same thing in government. You get the right people and good things happen. But now, Kamala wants to impose the largest tax hike in American history and raise your taxes by at least $3,000 a year. It's much worse than that, actually, because she wants to terminate the tax cuts that you've gotten. I stand before you today as the only candidate who can, we're going to rescue this thing. We're going to be able to do it, and it's going to happen fast. It's going to be rescued. Your prices are going down. We're going to drill, baby, drill. We're going to bring prices down. Who can rescue our economy from total obliteration and restore our country to full prosperity, explosive growth, and maximum strength. It is about growth, It's about growth. It's about some proper cost cutting. You know who we're going to use for that? Elon. He thinks he can find $2 trillion, only Elon. Anybody that can have that rocket come down the way it came down, that sucker. Right? How about that? How cool was that? He's the only one that can do it. Cutting 2 trillion, finding 2 trillion is easy when you can do that, and he wants to do it. You know where he is right now? He's campaigning in Pennsylvania for Donald Trump. How cool is that, right? How cool. No, he's cool. He wore that black hat. Remember the black hat? He called it dark MAGA, right? Dark MAGA. You'd look good in that hat. He called it dark MAGA. He looked cool. You know what happened? I don't think we sold one dark hat in 2 years. I didn't even know we had them. You want to know the truth? And everything's subtle, where it says, make America great again. It was also in black. So you had black on black. That's called very subtle. And he wore it and he loved it. And he did great. He made a speech, did great. We had 107,000 people in Butler, PA, right? Honoring the firefighter, Corey. Honoring Corey the firefighter. 107. And Elon got up and made his speech, and he did a good speech. He said, I've never seen so many people. I've never seen anything like it. And then, because, you know, he comes sort of out of a laboratory. I mean, you know, what he likes is, it's where he feels comfortable. All of a sudden, he's on the stage. He's got all those people. And he's wearing the hat. I said, what is it? He said, dark mag. I said, listen, that hat looks great, Elon. Okay. So I sold like 2 hats in the last year, dark bagger. Nobody bought them. We had a run on the hats. They sold 71,000 black hats. Can you believe it? 71,000. You make money with money. It's the way it is. It's a hot item. Anyway, his just released numbers plainly indicate our economy is a total disaster and is expected to get very substantially worse. It's a wonderful time for me to come in. You know, this is what I want. No, I would have rather come in when things are going in the right direction, but we're gonna get it straightened out fast. It's gonna be, we'll have the best economy you've ever had. You know, the stock market's going up. Scott Bessent, some of the smartest analysts on Wall Street said it's only going up for one reason, because Trump's leading in the polls and everyone thinks Trump's going to be president. They think Trump's going to win the election. That's why it's going up. Now, here's the bad news. They say if he doesn't win, you're going to end up in a depression. It's, boah, wait till you see that. It'll be a 1929 style economic depression that will absolutely crush your incomes and all that stuff. But we're not going to talk about that, because we want to make sure we win. And when we win, you are 4 days away from the best jobs, the biggest paychecks, and the brightest economic future the world has ever seen. You're going to be great. You're going to love it. And we will end Kamala's economic disaster and launch a brand new Trump economic miracle. You know, Steve Moore, a great economist. He's great, actually. He is a great guy, right? He is a great guy. He just wrote a book called The Trump Economic Miracle. Just came out. It's a bestseller. Go buy it. It's great. I mean, it's a great book. I mean, what the hell? It's like 20 bucks. It's 20 bucks. Give the guy 20 bucks. No, it's a great book. It's a hot book. The Trump Economic Miracle by Steve Moore. Go buy it. It's great. He really tells us how we did it and what we're going to do. It's, you know, not that complicated. I will massively cut taxes for workers and small businesses, and we will have no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security benefits for our great seniors. And you know, they're going to claim Donald Trump has a conflict of interest because I'm a senior and I'm giving. They're going to say he only did it because he didn't want to pay tax. Oh, they'll come up with something. They'll say there's some reason that he did it. No, I think, you know, the fixed income seniors, which is 96%, you don't look like a senior to me, let me tell you. You look like a good senior. But I don't feel like a senior. Does anybody feel like a senior? I feel better now. I think I'm sharper and better now than I was 25, 30 years ago. You know? I do, I swear. I'll let you know when I don't. In fact, you'll probably know before me. All you have to do is watch. There'll be a day when you get up here, you say, where am I? Like Joe did, right? Where am I? Where are the stairs? Where the hell are the stairs? Oh, there they are. You'll know. I think I'll know before you, actually. I think I will. And but I think we have a long way to go. Good parents, you know, it's nice to have parents that lived a long time, because if you believe in that, right? I do. I believe in that. It's called genetics. Genetics is good. Not everything, but it sure as hell is good. It's better to have good genetics than bad genetics, right? And I will support a tax credit for family caregivers who are amazing people who take care of a parent or a loved one. And you know, if we didn't have family caregivers, we wouldn't have enough hospitals. If we doubled our capacity, we wouldn't have enough. These people do so much, and we're going to get them a tax credit. To rapidly reduce inflation, I will end Kamala's war on American energy, and we will drill, baby, drill. Her. And I'll cut your energy prices in half within 12 months. We're going to cut your energy prices, and that's going to be the beginning, and we're going to bring your cost of groceries, foods, everything. We're going to all come down. That's what caused the problem. The energy is what caused it, because they came in and they destroyed what I had built. What a stupid group of people. All he had to do is go to the beach. You know, he went to the beach all the time, right? Somebody said he looks great. He's 82 years old. He looks unbelievable in a bathing suit. But he went to the beach, and he had a hard time moving. You know those things, they weigh like about 6 ounces. They're aluminum, hollowed aluminum. They're so light. They're meant for children and very old people. And what happens is he couldn't move it. He needed people to help him. So a kid came along who's 5 years old and helped him. But he went to the beach, and he had one quality that I don't have, and I wish I could have it. I'd pay a lot for it. He has the ability to fall asleep instantly with cameras on. Who the hell could do that? And you see him falling asleep and drooling out the right side of his mouth, and he's gone. And he gets a good rest. I don't do that. I toss and turn and turn and toss. I'm thinking about how the hell I'm going to make money for you people. Tossing and turning. Always tossing, turning, spinning around like a top. Thinking about China, thinking about Russia, the Russia hoax. How about the Russia hoax? Was that? That was another deal. I will cut a record number of job-killing regulations. I will terminate the Green New Scam, the biggest scam, the greatest scam in the history of our country. And I will end Kamala's insane electric vehicle mandate, saving the Michigan auto industry from extinction. And you know, I was here 4 weeks ago. I was at the Detroit Economic Club, right? And we had a meeting, and it was about automobiles, cars, and stuff, because you're getting killed. Look, you just lost 40, 50,000 jobs. This guy, the head of the union, you know, I'm leading by far in the popular poll, in the rank and file with the union. But they have guys that only go for Democrats. That's all right. Sean Fain, or whatever the hell his name is. So listen. And I told the story about a year ago. I have a friend that builds auto plants. Has anyone heard this story? Should I tell it again? Should I? John, oh, there he is, my man. Come on up here. Get up here. This guy is so great. This guy, come on up. Secret Service may rough you up a little bit. Come on up here. This guy gets it. He got it. Yeah, look at him. Look at him. Come here. Look at the arms on him. Look at the arms. All I can say is I'm taller than him, but he has much bigger arms. Much bigger. And he's a great guy, and he loves this whole, I think you just love Detroit, you love the area. But I've been telling you for a year and a half about this incident that I had. A friend of mine, John, he builds plants. That's all he does. He's a rich guy, he builds plants. If you told him to build an apartment, he wouldn't know how. If you told him to put down asphalt, he would. But he can build a plant like nobody. He builds all of them, most of them. And he was telling me that he's building some big plants. I said, I want to see one. Let's go. I want to see a plant under construction. I like that. I like that stuff. I was always good at it, too. Always a good builder. I always built great buildings. So I wanted to see one. He said, well, we'll have to go to Mexico. We know the story. We're going to have to go to Mexico because all of the big plants. I said, what do you mean Mexico? What about here? No. Oh, this is a year ago. He said, really? Let me see. And he showed me a plant that's the biggest plant, I think, in the world, right? It's the biggest. It would ruin Detroit. It does probably more than all of your plants put together. It's massive, owned by China. So China was going to come in and build one of the biggest plants in the world, I think the biggest plant by far, actually, in the world, and some others, right along our border, make cars, put them into here, and you can forget about Detroit, you can forget about Michigan. It would be over. And I didn't like it. So he told me about it a year ago, and then I started thinking about it. And I said, you know, if they build that plant, and you know, they're decimating Europe, what they're doing, they're dumping cars in there like crazy, and it's being decimated, the auto industry, the manufacturing of car industry. So what happened is he said, no, this is the way it is, it's going to happen. I said, so I said, we're not going to let that happen, because if they build these massive plants, especially this one monster plant that's so big that you wouldn't believe it. So I announced when I was at the Detroit Economic Forum, and a little before that I'm going to put 100% tariffs, and if that's not high enough, I'll make it 200%. And I announced it a little before the forum, actually, and I said, no, we're going to put 100%, and maybe I'll make it 200, maybe I'll make it 300, 400, I don't give a damn. I'll make it whatever I have to make it. And that was it. I just made the announcement. I didn't make a big deal out of it. The fake news didn't pick it up because they don't want to pick it up. But I didn't want to see Detroit destroyed, and other places like South Carolina and Tennessee and a lot of other places. But your state more than any other state, without question. And so what happened is I forgot about it. Now I'm speaking, and I see this guy, John, the builder of auto plants. And I said, I'd like to see him after I speak. So I speak. I'd made my speech. It was a brilliant speech. Brilliant. And I saw him. And I said, John, how's that plant going that you're building in Mexico on the border? He said, sir, they've canceled that plant last week. They're not going to build it. Because they think you're going to win. And they think you're going to put tariffs on the cars, and therefore they're not going to be able to bring any cars into the United States. And they said, if Trump wins, this thing is not going to work at all. So, but I'll tell you what, that plant will go up so fast if there's a mishap. Here's the good news. There's only one way there can be a mishap, and you know what that way is. And I hope to hell that doesn't happen. I hope to hell that doesn't happen again. So I'm just proud of this guy because he's been on my, I didn't know who the hell he is.
Got you back.
I didn't know who he was. All I know is he has very good, strong arms. I'm impressed by his arms. He's a strong guy, but he was a good guy and a smart guy. And he was against the electric cars because he said they're going to be made in China. You know, you're going to get 2 good years, and after that, nobody's going to work. Did you see? 37,000 auto jobs were cut this month. 37,000.
I got more news for you.
Well, you can tell them, okay? You tell them. So here's the story. They're not building the plant. We're going to build those plants here.
Thanks to President Trump. Thank you, sir. Okay, guys, listen. President Trump is telling you the truth about when we met, and it was a year and a half or so ago, and he asked me questions. He said, how does your industry like these EV mandates? And I said, sir, they don't like them. Nobody wants to buy those. You know, we're not only auto workers, we're consumers too, right? We don't want to drive those things. How do you pull a trailer with 4 snowmobiles on it up to Traverse City when it's 5 degrees below zero in an EV? You can't do it. But Kamala Harris thinks she knows better than the experts in Detroit. She wants no more combustion engines, internal combustion engines, produced by 2035 because she's smarter than the engineers at General Motors, right? So President Trump gets it. Every time we met, we started talking backstage, and he would ask me questions. I'd give him feedback. We'd talk back and forth, and it became kind of a regular thing. So I got in the habit of coming up here and kind of giving him updates on how things are going in the auto industry. I was holding a rally every week outside of a different auto plant in the Detroit area with a lot of these guys behind me. And we were talking to auto workers all summer long for 4 or 5 months. And I would ask them, I'd do my own poll. What's it like inside? Are they voting for Trump? How's our support? I'd say, do we have majority in there? They'd say, majority? You got 65 or 70%. We're not voting for Joe Biden and then Kamala Harris. So don't believe anything you read in the newspaper. Don't believe anything you see Sean Fain talking about. The auto workers, UAW members, are voting for Donald Trump for president. Okay, that's the good news. That's the good news. But now I got some bad news for you, and this is going to really tick you off and motivate you to get your friends out to vote. Yesterday, Ford Motor Company sent out notices to all their workers at the Dearborn Ford pickup truck, the Lightning, 100% electric vehicle. They laid everybody off till next year. All right? So those people, through the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, are unemployed. We don't know when they're coming back, but it won't be at least until next year. So I don't know if you saw that news. Now I got some other news that the people in the back there don't like to talk about, but I'm going to pass it on. Now this is big news. Because I've been getting called up on stage and I talk to President Trump on a regular basis, 3 vice presidents at Stellantis reached out to me through a friend of mine who's very tied in with the auto industry, and they wanted to give President Trump some bad news about what Stellantis has planned for next year. But they would only do it on the condition of 100% complete anonymity, because they would be fired and lose their jobs if it came out that they had leaked this information because they had signed non-disclosure agreements. Now, these are not people on the assembly line. These are not high-low drivers like I was. The one gentleman that, the lead of these 3, is a vice president of manufacturing. Now, he recently retired, but they told me, and they sent me all the data and information to back it up, and I've gotten it to the proper people that can vet it, check it out, corroborate it, and make sure it's all legit and accurate. But they told me that the expansions, quote-unquote expansions to the plants in Mexico that Stellantis is currently working on to handle additional capacity, those are going to be the only capacity when they get up and running, because they're going to move all their American production south of the border to Mexico. Now remember, Stellantis is not an American company. You know, Chrysler's been used and abused like a stepchild. They were bought by Mercedes. They were bought by Fiat. Now they're owned by a French company. So they don't care about you. They don't care about our jobs. You've heard all the speakers up here today. Every job in the Detroit area relies on the auto industry. But a French company that owns Chrysler is about to send all the Chrysler production to Mexico. There's only one way to stop this. There's only one person who will stop it. His name is Donald J. Trump. So I'm asking you, when you leave here today, you got 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, to get every single person in your contact list out to vote. Not Tuesday. Get them to vote tomorrow and Sunday. Okay? Tell them, do not wait till Tuesday. They got to do it over the weekend. One phone call and they'll know where they got to go. But you got to get them out. And then when they vote, then they can get everybody on their contact list out to vote. We got to make it too big to rig. Let's elect Donald J. Trump, the 47th President of the United States.
He's a hell of a guy. That guy. Thank you. So he's something. He loves the country. He loves your state. Tell Stellantis, I think I'll send him back. He's quite good at delivering a message. Tell Stellantis that if they plan on moving, we're going to charge them a 100% tariff on every car they put in, and they won't move. You know who said they're going to move? A company I buy a lot of stuff from them, a lot. Great company, John Deere, going to move big sections of their company from Iowa, I believe they said, to Mexico. And I told them, and I did it in writing, I said that if you do it, beware, because I'm going to charge you about 100% tariff on everything you make to put back. So if you're going to move from Iowa And if you're going to move from Iowa to Mexico, and then you think you're going to make it in Mexico and sell it over here and sell it at that cost, not going to happen. We're going to do a 100% tariff. They announced, I believe, that they're no longer making the move, didn't they? I think that's what I heard. Somebody told me the other day that they announced that they're not making the move. Why would they make the move? It'll cost them much more to make the product over there when we do this. In other words, we're going to use that. Look, the most beautiful word in the dictionary to me is tariff. I think it's the most beautiful word. It's going to make our country rich. And these stupid people, look, politicians, there's only two reasons why they wouldn't want to use tariffs. They're stupid or they're corrupt. There's no third reason. They're either stupid or they're corrupt. I just stopped the largest plant in the entire world, which would destroy your state. I think this plant made more than all of Detroit put together. You know, it's a big, and I just stopped it, and I'm not even president yet, okay? Think of what I could do when I'm president. But I have to find out. But I'm telling you, I told John Deere, we told them very strong. We said, look, you're going to move out of Iowa. We're putting about 100% tariff on anything you make. There was a different kind of a plant. There was parts and this and that. I said, if you're going to do that, we're putting in a tariff. And that was it. I sort of went on to other things, like how to get elected very easily. And I heard 2 days ago that they're not going to build the plants here. So it's pretty good, right? It's pretty good. But you're a hell of a guy, I tell you. He's a friend of mine. I'll make interest on car loans. So here's the thing I thought of, and it's funny, it's not that complicated. It's going to do tremendous good for your area, because here's what I'm doing. I thought of this idea, and then I expanded. You know, a lot of times you have an idea, and then you expand. I was always good financially, and I was always very good on construction. In this case, construction doesn't matter. It's finance that matters. And people call me up. It doesn't sound complicated. They say, from Wall Street, 182 IQ guys, brilliant guys. Where the hell did you ever come up with that idea? Like, as an example, no tax on tips. I did that, everyone went crazy. Nobody ever heard of it before, right? No, it's true. And then that dumb woman, very dumb woman, that low IQ individual, like 2 months later stood up, today I'd like to announce that we're not going to have tax on tips. And she got booed out of the place, you know, it didn't work. You never heard a second, nobody talked about it after that, because she was, so, you know, the one problem with what I do is I do it and then somebody else copies you, but they don't have the brain power to get it done. So I had this idea, but then I had a better idea using the first idea, but it's all pretty simple. I'm going to make interest on car loans fully tax deductible. That's it, right? And people said, where the hell did you ever come? Isn't it funny? It's like the paperclip, you know? Years ago, long before you, youngster, years ago, somebody came up with the idea of the paperclip. I think 129 years ago, a long time ago. And he had a little piece of steel, metal, whatever. He bent it around, and start selling it. So, and everybody saw it, and they said, why the hell didn't I come up with that idea, right? The paperclip. But this is sort of like that. So that's fully deductible. That's going to be unbelievable. But here's the problem. I don't give a damn if they buy a car in Japan or China or South Korea. What the hell good does that do for us? So then I came up with phase 2 of the same idea, fully tax deductible, but only if the car is made in the U.S. Wow. And I announced it last week up here. I've been up here a lot because we have to win Michigan. We win Michigan. We win Michigan. We win the whole ball of wax because, and we got to bring John James and all of these great guys with us. We got to bring them with us. But I got calls. So here it is. Number one, the deductibility. They said, wow, what a great idea. But then number 2, you only get it if you make the car in the U.S. I can't say here, but we'll try steering them to here because I would love, you know, they've been talking about a renaissance and a rebirth for Detroit for 45 years. And I got into some heat because I said, they've been talking about it for 45 years, and if it's okay with you, it hasn't exactly happened, okay? You know, I'd like to say it did, but it hasn't. And if I did, you'd hit me on that one too. But it can happen, and I'd love to steer it right over to here where it all began, because it's very sad. It's very sad what's happened. But think of it. You're going to have deductibility of interest. That's a big deal. You're going to be roaring, but I didn't want it to go to China, Japan, South Korea, or any one of 10 other countries. So I came up with phase 2, and I said, but only if the car is built in the United States of America. Otherwise, you don't get it. How good is it? You know what? That in itself will spur, I mean, you will be spurred onward to bring back millions of jobs. We will give our companies the lowest taxes, the lowest energy costs, the lowest regulatory burdens, and free access to the best and biggest market on the planet. Remember this, you're not going to have a best and biggest market soon. Your market's getting evaporated by incompetent people that are leading it. One guy who has to go to bed at 4 o'clock in the evening, and another woman who's actually not nearly as smart as he is. Would you believe this? But only for those who make their product the same thing. This is on a bigger scale than the autos. You can build your plant here, and we love you. But if you don't build your plant here, you don't get the tariff, you don't get the tax cut, you don't get it. You have to build your plant. And these guys at Wall Street that are very brilliant guys, they call me up, this, who the hell gave you these ideas? And yet, you know, it's just like, I always say it's like the paperclip. People don't think about it, but think of the idea that deductibility, that's gonna make it great. Vote for Trump, and you will see a mass exodus of manufacturing jobs from Mexico to Michigan, from Shanghai to Sterling Heights, and from Beijing to Detroit. Finally, Detroit will benefit, all right? And it's easy. And you know what her economic plan is? She doesn't have one. She doesn't have one. She wants to tax companies. You know what happens when you tax them? They leave. A lot of these big companies, you know, they're run by they live in Switzerland, they have very glamorous lives. They have the life that I could have had if I decided not to do this, actually. Somebody said to me, are you glad you did it? I said, absolutely, but I could have been on the best beaches in the world. I own the best beaches in the world. I could have had such time. I could have been at the Great Turnberry in Scotland. I could have been anywhere I wanted to be. I could have had those waves smacking me in the face. I could have said, that white, beautiful white skin that I have would be nice and tan. I got the whitest skin because I never have time to go out in the sun, but I have that beautiful white, and you know what? It could have been beautiful, tan, beautiful. But you know what? If I had the choice, I wouldn't even think about it. I would do exactly what I've done, because we're going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again, greater than ever before. It's true. We're going to pass the Trump Reciprocal Trade Act also. That was very simple. Reciprocal trade, meaning if China or any other country, I don't want to pick on China because the European Union is almost as bad as China. They don't accept your cars. They don't accept your farm products, but they send their farm products here, and they send their cars here by the millions and millions. So if China or any other country charges 100 or 200% tax, then we will charge them 100 or 200% tax in return. It's called an eye for an eye, and it'll all stop. I will never apologize for defending America. I will protect our workers. I will protect our jobs. I will protect our borders. I will protect our families. And I will protect the birthright of our children to live in the richest and most powerful nation on the face of the earth again. And as we rescue our economy, I will also restore our borders, because I think it's your biggest problem. I think, you know, inflation is terrible. It's a country buster. The economy is horrible. You saw the numbers, and I hope the fake news is going to write those numbers. There's a lot of fake news back there, but I hope you'll be lucky if one guy writes it. It'll be the local Detroit newspaper or something. They don't write those numbers because they want to try and get her elected. Why? I don't know. I don't. That's the biggest thing I can't understand. Why the hell would you want her? She's horrible. But over the past 4 years, Kamala has orchestrated the most egregious betrayal that any leader in American history has ever inflicted upon its people. She has violated her oath and eradicated our sovereign border, totally eradicated our border, and unleashed an army of gangs and criminal migrants from prisons and jails, insane asylums and mental institutions from all over the world, from Venezuela to the Congo in Africa. Congo, a lot of people coming in from the Congo. And you know where they live in the Congo? In jails. They're emptying their jails into this country. But they're doing it all over the world, in Asia, in the Middle East, and in South America. Venezuela's released big portions of their jails into the United States. And I'm surprised they haven't done more yet. They will. It's going to all come in. You'll have 100%. But I would have done it faster than them. I would have done it if I were them. Why would I keep these prisoners for 60 years? The killers and murderers and drug dealers and everything else. They've released them all into the United States. And you know what? Their crime has gone down by 72%. They've gotten their crime. They've gone into their cities, Caracas and cities, and they've taken the gangs and they've removed their gangs and they've put them into your country. Can you imagine? And this woman and this guy, but she was in charge of the border. Remember, she was in charge of the border. He put her in charge of the border. She is the border czar. She doesn't want to say that because it's been so bad. And by the way, the Border Patrol endorsed me a few days ago with the strongest endorsement they've ever done. They actually said, I'm the greatest president in the history of our country. I said, are you talking about the border? They said, no, the border too. You're the best we ever had in the border, but you're the best president in the history of our country. And then I said, does that include Abraham Lincoln, George Washington? Does that include everybody? How about Lincoln, Washington? You know, we had some pretty good ones. We had some pretty bad ones, too. A couple of that we just had. Here's the good thing. Jimmy Carter's just turned 100. He's going to be a happy man. He's so thrilled because his administration looks totally brilliant compared to the Biden-Kamala administration. So Jimmy is a happy man today. He's led a brilliant administration by comparison. Today I want to hear, and I want you to hear from a mother just made 2 days ago who suffered gravely because her daughter was killed by an illegal migrant that would have never come in under the Trump policy. And she said that, would have never come in. We have open borders. These killers are coming in at levels that nobody's ever seen. Please watch.
Sunday night, I asked her to not stay up super late because of her coming to work with me in the morning first to do her summer school. She said, okay. I told her good night and I love you. I went to bed, not realizing that that was going to be the last time I saw her.
We're best friends.
Yeah. We're going to shake it again.
I woke up to notice she wasn't in her bed. I'm in my heart trying not to lose my mind because I don't know where she is. I finally remembered her phone had a location on and her phone was pinging just 2 minutes down the road, right behind the skate park. I start driving to the direction the phone was being pinged at, and I see a couple cop cars with lights on. I see yellow tape, and immediately my heart drops and sinks to the bottom of my stomach. My daughter's hands and ankles were both bound. She was strangled to death, left with no pants. And I know in my heart, she fought incredibly hard. She was not going down without a fight.
We begin with two men we're learning are charged with capital murder tonight, accused of killing a 12-year-old girl.
Police say these men strangled her before dumping her into that creek. Both men were in the country illegally.
Apprehended, then released by Border Patrol less than 3 weeks before Jocelyn's death. The men accused of killing Jocelyn Nungare are affiliated with the gang known for brutal violence.
Kamala Harris was in charge of immigration in our borders. If we had better border policies and not open borders and not these catch and release policies, I truly believe this all could have been prevented. under her being vice president of this country, my daughter's life was ripped away from her. She had her entire life ahead of her.
Happy birthday, dear Jocelyn.
My daughter is 6 feet in the ground based off of policies that she allowed to keep. Kamala Harris did have one job, and she not only failed, not me, she failed my daughter. She failed Jocelyn. You know, she was only 12. President Trump reached out, gave me his sincerest condolences as not a former president, but just as a father, someone who cares. I believe Donald Trump needs to be back in office. I can at least know that my next child will be safe in this country.
That's what we're allowing into our country. The day I take the oath of office, the migrant invasion ends and the restoration of our country begins. And the savages charged with brutalizing and murdering precious Jocelyn are members of the same vicious Venezuelan prison gang, Tren de Aragua, that is taking over apartment complexes and unleashing a violent killing spree all over America. You probably read in Aurora, Colorado, and I think Colorado's got to vote for Trump, because what's happening in Colorado is unbelievable. They're taking over the state. The radical left governor has no idea what to do. The United States is now an occupied country, but it will soon be an occupied country no longer. November 5th, 2024, Election Day, will be Liberation Day in America. It'll be Liberation Day, 4 days. On day one, I will launch the largest deportation program in American history. I will rescue every city and town that has been invaded and conquered. These towns have been invaded, and these towns have been actually conquered. Think of it, we're talking about the United States of America. And we will put these vicious and bloodthirsty criminals in jail, or at a minimum, kick them the hell out of our country and fast. To expedite removals of Tren de Aragua and other savage gangs like MS-13, I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. Very tough one. To target and dismantle every migrant criminal network operating on American soil. And if they come back into our country, it's an automatic 10 years in jail with no possibility of parole. And I'm hereby calling, today I am calling for the death penalty for any migrant that kills an American citizen or a law enforcement officer. And I will immediately ban all sanctuary cities in the United States of America. They're sanctuaries for criminals. Despite all the damage she has caused, Kamala has spent the final week of her campaign comparing her political opponents to the most evil mass murderers in history. 3 days ago, Joe Biden called our supporters garbage. He said we're garbage. Said we were garbage. It's not nice, is it? Not nice, Joe. It was so bad that the White House stenographer was ordered to change the transcript. That's like 60 Minutes taking out the answer to a question. Did you see that we sued 60 Minutes and CBS yesterday? But the stenographers who were honest and they reported it, they were told to not put down what he said, put down a different answer. They couldn't do it because it's fraud. That's not what they heard. My response to Joe and Kamala is simple. You can't lead America if you don't love Americans. You can't. And you can't be president if you hate the American people. Kamala's closing message to America is that she hates you. You know, there's got to be something there. I think she does. I do believe, you know, don't forget, she's from San Francisco. She's a Marxist, or as you would say, a communist from San Francisco. She destroyed the greatest city in the country, probably, you know. It's probably the best city in the country was. My closing message is that I love America, and I'm inviting you to join us in building an extraordinary future for our nation. My oath of office is an oath of allegiance to you, the American people, and I'm asking for your vote, but I want you to know that whether or not you vote for me, when I win, I will fight for you with every breath in my body. I will. What we have built is the biggest, broadest, most incredible coalition and the greatest political movement in American history. My God, it's the best movement, the biggest movement in the history of our country. I told Joe, I said, Joe, it means make America great again. It's okay, Joe. We're seeing historic levels of support among blacks, Hispanics, and Asians, Jews, Catholics, evangelicals, and Mormons. They're all joining our cause in larger numbers than ever before. And now the most amazing thing is happening. We're also winning overwhelming support from your Muslim community right here in Michigan. Muslim and Arab right here in Michigan. That's something. That's progress. And I just came from an incredible meeting with the Lebanese community in Dearborn. Last week I was honored to be endorsed by a group of some of the most important imams and Muslim leaders in your state. And I'm also grateful to the mayors of Dearborn Heights. Bill Brazzi, Bill Brazzi, where's Bill? Hello, Bill. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you. And the mayor of Hamtramck, Dr. Amir Galeb. Doctor, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. They're great people. Many Muslim and Arab Americans are friends and family living in the Middle East, and Kamala is campaigning with warmongers like Liz Cheney. How do you think that is? They want to get the Arab American vote. They want to get the Muslim votes. So she picks Liz Cheney, whose father virtually destroyed the Middle East, right? I don't think it's working out too well. You know, it's interesting. If you give, Liz Cheney, she talks big, oh, I want war. She always wants war. Every time I was with her in the White House, we should attack this nation, that nation, nations that people never even heard of, we should attack. She's a big tough guy, she's a big tough one. She's a tough one. But if you gave Liz Cheney a gun and put her into battle facing the other side with guns pointing at her, she wouldn't have the courage or the strength or the stamina to even look the enemy in the eye. She wouldn't have. She sits back in Washington, oh, we ought to go and attack Iran, Iraq. We're going to attack everybody. That's why I broke up with her. All she wanted to do is go to war with everybody. Because she, like Kamala, is a stupid person. It's easy for her to say she wants to start wars from the comfort of her nice home or her father's lavish home that he got from killing a big portion of the Middle East. You know that, right? He headed up a company that was a big company, a big beneficiary of the wars. These war hawks, they want to draft your kids to die in wars, and they will never fight themselves. Liz Cheney wouldn't fight. I'll go with her. I'll go to the Middle East. I'll go wherever she wants, and we'll fight. She doesn't have the guts to fight. She's all talk and no action. She lost her seat for Congress from a great state. I love that state. I won that state by like 50 points or some crazy number. And she lost to a very good woman who ran against her, Harriet. How good is Harriet? So Liz Cheney lost by almost 40 points. It's the biggest defeat in the history of the United States Congress. No other congressperson lost by that much. She lost by almost 40 points. Never seen anything like it. If Kamala wins, only death and destruction await, because she is the candidate of endless wars. I am the candidate of peace. I am peace. People don't believe that. I am peace. But I need every Muslim American in Michigan to get the hell out and vote, please, Mr. Mayors. All right? We got to get them out and vote. No, we want peace. Everybody wants. Who doesn't want peace? Only stupid people like Cheney. No, you give her a gun, Liz. We're going to a certain location in the world. We're going to fight it out with them. Oh, please, I don't want to do it. But when she's there and there's no consequences, we should go to war with them. Her and that idiot John Bolton, who was so stupid. But I loved him. You know why? He'd come into a room with me, would never say anything, and I'd be with foreign leaders, and I didn't even have to act tough, because they said, look, that moron, John Bolton, he's crazy. He's the one with Dick Cheney got Bush to go into the Middle East, right? Trump is going to go to war with us. And you know what would happen? They'd give me everything I wanted, because the guy's a nut job. Kamala Harris's campaign is in total free fall. You see that. The press hates to admit it. You know, I guess they want to hold it. Well, I don't want to be too cute with these statements. I want to be a little careful, because you got to still get out and vote. But if you get out and vote, we're going to win this thing in records that nobody's ever seen before. You got to get out. Harry, get up and vote. You're coming with me, Harry. Get the hell out of that sofa, Harry. But I'm watching the game. Get out, Harry. Let's go. We're going to vote for the president. And he votes. And you know what? Harry will feel much better. He's going to feel much better. Because everyone can see that she's totally unqualified to be the president of the United States. And she is. Everything Kamala says is a lie. I watched her yesterday. Such lies. Her entire campaign is one hoax and slander after another. But the more they lie, the more they smear, and the more they tell untruths. We have to go out and we have to get to, but no, she'll say everything. Trump will never frack. Oh, really? Trump will never drill. Oh, really? I'll drill the first day we're going to start drilling. Going to make our country rich. Everything she said, oh, Trump will end Social Security. No, I'm the one that didn't end it for 4 years. She's the one that's going to force its ending because of millions of people. Look, we gave you a stat before, all the jobs that are leaving, but we gave you a stat. And what did that stat say? It said that all of our jobs are being taken by the migrants that come into our country illegally. And many of those migrants happen to be criminals. And some of them happen to be murderers. And they're taking the jobs away from the black population, and so far, to a lesser extent, from the Hispanic population. But that will change, too. The only way to stop the lies is to swamp them with our votes. We're going to swamp them. Kamala has no vision, no ideas. She has no solutions whatsoever. All she can talk, and it's true, all she can do, I watched her yesterday, all she can do is talk about Donald Trump.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I will speak about Donald Trump. 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 Donald Trump.
That was yesterday. I'm watching it. I'm saying, oh. Thank you. No, I was watching yesterday. Trump did. Why the hell didn't she fix this stuff? I mean, now she's saying, I'm going to do this or that or this. There are some people who thrive under pressure, and there are some people who crack under pressure. And the more pressure Kamala has, the more pressure that Kamala has, the worse she's crumbled. I watched her 2 days ago. She's exhausted. I mean, I've been doing 62 days without a day off, and I am inspired, actually. It's crazy, right? I'm actually inspired. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be, but I am. She's so rattled and frightened that she couldn't even do an interview with a great guy named Joe Rogan. Couldn't do it. And if she can't handle an interview, she sure as hell can't handle President Xi, can she? She can't handle President Xi of China. She will get overwhelmed, she will melt down, and millions of people will die with her stupidity. They got us into Ukraine. We should have never gone into Ukraine. If I was president, you would have never gone into Ukraine. This is not a charity event. This is an election for the biggest and toughest job in human history. This is the biggest job in history. And on top of it, we have to save our country. Do you want to lose your life savings because we put a weak and foolish person in the White House? Do you want to lose your job and maybe your house and pension because Kamala has the economic understanding of a child? She's like a child. I watch her. I'm good at this stuff. I watch her. She doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. And every one of those companies will move. They'll move to Asia. They'll move to Europe. They'll move. Everybody wants those companies. But we do too, and we're not letting them go. Take a look. Take a look at what we did with John Deere. I mean, I just heard it just recently that John Deere has announced that they're not going to move to Mexico. If they do move to Mexico, they're going to pay a big price. They can sell anywhere they want, but they're not selling in the United States of America, okay? And I like John Deere, and I'm a big customer of John Deere, and maybe they'll red flag me. They'll say you can't buy from John Deere, and I'll buy from somebody else if I have to. But they're not going to move their manufacturing plants to Mexico unless they want to pay a very big price. This presidency is a job held by Teddy Roosevelt, Abraham Lincoln, Dwight Eisenhower, Ronald Reagan, people of strength and intelligence. Would you trust Kamala Harris to talk to Russia or China and talk them out of a war? Let's talk. I don't think you would. Would you trust her to steer us out of an economic calamity? She has put us into, and we are right now, we had the lowest job numbers I think I've ever heard. I've never heard of 12,000 jobs, John, have you? I don't think so. We've done this for a long time. I don't think I've ever heard of 12,000 jobs. Nothing is more dangerous than to give an immense amount of power to a very weak and incompetent and low IQ person. That's what you're giving. You're giving the presidency to a low IQ person. We had that for 4 years. We can't take another 4 years. I mean, the mistakes this guy made, and she was there, right? She was there. She approved everything she said. She'd like to have that statement back. You wouldn't put Kamala Harris in charge of literally a kindergarten class. You wouldn't be able to do the job. So at the end of the day, you need to ask yourself, can you afford to put someone this incompetent in charge of our country's future? No, you can't. On top of it all, Kamala says she would do one thing. Remember this. She would do one thing different, and then she took it back because she forgot the thing. So she said she wouldn't do anything different than Joe Biden, which is disqualifying. They've got almost a 90% wrong track. You know, right track, wrong track? It's the highest wrong track in the history of our country, almost 90%. It's disqualifying. Take a look at this.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
I stood there on the tarmac watching you check your watch.
The chaotic and deadly U.S. evacuation from Afghanistan stunned Americans and the world and cost the lives of 13 U.S. soldiers.
Would you have done something differently?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
More than 13,000 illegal immigrants convicted of murder have been caught at the border and then released into the United States.
An Afghan national is in custody today after being accused of plotting an election day terrorist attack. The suspect entered the U.S. on a special immigrant visa.
Gut-wrenching new details in the murder of Georgia nursing student Laken Riley. The illegal immigrant suspect, who cops say committed the heinous murder, is a Venezuelan national who crossed the unsecured southern border back in 2022.
2 men investigators say are in the country illegally from Venezuela are charged with capital murder in the death of Jocelyn Nungaray.
A 5th illegal immigrant accused of attacking 2 New York City police officers over the weekend showed no remorse or regret.
Would you have done something differently?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Only 18% say the economy is in excellent or good condition.
US inflation has hit a new 40-year high, increasing by 9.1% over the financial year.
Authorities saying Train de Aragua, which has been linked with more than 100 criminal investigations here in the U.S., has now been found operating its criminal enterprise in apartment complexes.
Were you the last person in the room? Yes.
Wouldn't come to mind, not a thing. Nothing comes to her mind. Let me tell you. It wasn't so much that nothing comes to her mind, because she's stupid. Now, can you imagine? You know the worst thing of all? 325,000 children are missing or dead. They came through the border. Think of that, 300. We're not talking 2 or 3, which is too many. 325,000 children went through her stupid open border, and now they're either missing, dead, or slaves. If you want to end this disaster, you must get out and vote. We're pleased to be joined today, and I hope this happens because he's really good, by your next senator from the great state of Michigan, Mike Rogers. Mike, thank you. Come on, Mike.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for a couple of things. First of all, standing up for manufacturing in Michigan. That's exciting. You cannot be a great country if you can't build things. Donald J. Trump understands that for our state and our nation. For that, I thank you. I tell you, the biggest endorsement, we should be able to drop the mic and be done. Tells you everything you need to know. As the president said, he got Customs or the Border Patrol Agents Association endorsement. Kamala Harris got the IRS agents endorsement. Do we need to say any more than that? And I just want to say a quick thing. Thank you, Mr. President, and I look forward to working with you to close this border. I met with a group, and they're called Fentanyl Fathers, and it's parents who have lost children to fentanyl poisoning. 3,000 of our Michigan citizens died last year because of fentanyl poisoning that came across our southern border. I look forward to not only closing the border, but putting those cartels on the terrorist list and make sure that they are held accountable for the deaths that they're bringing to our communities. And we're also going to hold accountable China for the precursors that they're sending there on purpose to kill our children in Michigan and around the country. We can do it, but the only way that we're going to do that is having Donald J. Trump reelected as the 47th President of the United States of America. So I'm going to extend an invitation to you, Mr. President, right here, right now. We're going to both win because we're going to get out and work as hard as we can the next few days. And we're going to take a couple of those plastic fold-up chairs, and we're going to sit outside of the majority leader's office in the Senate. I'm buying the popcorn, and we're going to watch Chuck Schumer schlep out of that office and down the hall so that we can make America great again. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for your energy, Mr. President.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. I see a very good Hulk Hogan lookalike. Look at that guy. The only thing I thought is Hulk's about 6 inches taller, maybe 7, 8, maybe not. Thank you. You look good. You look damn good anyway. But I know Hulk. He's that tall son of a gun. How good was Hulk the other night, right? Wasn't he, right? I also want to thank Senators Eric Schmidt and Mark Wayne Mullen, two of the great senators of our country. They're here someplace, and I want to thank them very much. Thank you. Two great senators and brave people. Congressman John James, a friend of mine for a long time, and he's doing a great job. Great job, Joe. And you're doing well. Lisa McLean. Lisa, look at Lisa. These are warriors. These are great people. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. You look great. John Molinar. John. Hi, John. Good. Thank you, John. Tim Wahlberg. Thank you, Tim. Good job, Tim. They're great people. They fight hard. They love your state. They love, I'll tell you, they love this country. And Robert F. Kennedy, Jr. Oh, he's so good. He's so good. He's so good. Thank you, Bobby. And a man who I implored, I said, Pete, you got to do it. You got to be Michigan GOP chairman. And he was very, very successful, as you know, politically. He was a great congressman. Everything he did was successful. And he was sort of like me. He didn't need this. And he said, I'll do it. Pete Hoekstra, head of the GOP, chairman. Thank you. Great. We're doing okay? We're going to pull it off 4 days. Going to win? He said you're going to win. If he says you're going to win, that's the good news. He knows how to win, I can tell you that. Mayor of Riverview, Andrew Swift. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Andrew. Mayor of Garden City, Mark Jacobs. Thank you, Mark. Got all the big mayors here today. Township Supervisor, Grosse Ile, James Budney. Thank you very much. Thank you. Mayor of Southgate, Joseph Cuspa. And City Council President, Zoe Cuspa. A little relationship there, I guess. President of the Michigan Police Officers Association, James Tiganelli, and he was so nice. He gave me a big award the other day. We have the endorsement of every single police group. And Brian Pennybecker, you met before, and Brian, I want to thank you. Brian Pennybecker. He's been so incredible. And Dr. Masad Boulos, I want to just thank you very much. You've worked so brilliantly with everybody. And my friend Steve Witkoff, who's a great developer and an amazing guy. Thank you, Steve. Here are the facts, just in closing. Kamala is a radical left Marxist, rated even worse than crazy Bernie Sanders and Pocahontas herself. She destroyed our economy. She was an original creator of the Defund the Police movement, and anybody who wants to defund the police for even 1 week is not worthy of being president of the United States. Kamala vowed to abolish ICE. She pledged to confiscate your guns. I don't think so. Would anybody like to give up their gun? Please stand up. And endorsed a total ban on handgun ownership. And she even called for free sex changes for illegal aliens in detention, all at taxpayer expense. But perhaps most significant of all, she lied about working at McDonald's. She never lied. She never worked. She never worked at McDonald's. With your vote this November, we are going to fire Kamala, and we are going to save America. We will cut your taxes, end inflation, slash your prices, raise your wages, and bring thousands and thousands of factories back to America and back to Detroit, Michigan, and Michigan. Thank you. We will build American, we will buy American, and we will hire American. I will end the war in Ukraine. Would have never started if I was president. I will stop the chaos in the Middle East. Would have never happened October 7th. And I will prevent World War III from happening. We will crush violent crime and give our police the support, protection, resources, and respect that they so dearly deserve. We will strengthen and modernize our military. We will build a missile defense shield, the biggest in the world, all over our country, made in the USA, much of it made in Michigan. We will rebuild our cities, including our capital in Washington, D.C., making them safe, clean, and beautiful again. Our cities are a mess. They're a mess, a crime-ridden mess. We will teach our children to love our country, to honor our history, and to always respect our great American flag. And I'm going to put a bill in. If you burn the American flag, you get 1 year in jail. Just happened a few weeks ago in Washington. They're burning American flags all over the place. We will get critical race theory and transgender insanity the hell out of our schools. And we will keep men out of women's sports. I will defend religious liberty. I will restore free speech, and I will defend the right to keep and bear arms, our Second Amendment, which is under siege. After years of building up foreign nations, defending foreign borders, and protecting foreign lands, we're finally going to build up our country, defend our borders, and protect our citizens and our lands. And we will stop illegal immigration once and for all. We will not be invaded. We will not be occupied. We will not be overrun. We will not be conquered. We will be a free, proud nation once again. We're going to be free and proud. Everyone will prosper. Every family will thrive. And every day will be filled with opportunity and hope. And most importantly, it's going to be filled again with the American dream. We're going to fill it up with the American dream for you, but for your kids. Your kids want the American dream brought back. But for that to happen, we must defeat Kamala Harris and stop her radical left agenda with a landslide that is too big to rig. Get out and vote. For the past 9 years, we have been fighting against the most sinister and corrupt forces on earth. You know that. With your vote in this election, you can show them once and for all that this nation does not belong to them. This nation belongs to you. It was hardworking patriots like you who built this country. And 4 days from now, it is hardworking patriots like you who are going to save our country. After all we have been through together, we stand on the verge of the 4 greatest years in American history. We can do that. It seems unlikely, doesn't it? But we can do it. We're going to do it very fast. With your help from now until Election Day, we will restore America's promise, and we will take back the nation that we love. We are one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. We will never give in. We will never give up. We will never back down, and we will never, ever surrender. Together, we will fight, 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 and win, win, win. We're going to win again. November 5th will be the most important day in the history of our country. And together, we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy again. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Bobby. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you. Thank you, Michigan. God bless you all.
Please welcome John Pishko and John Dean.
Hey, everybody. Glad to be here. What an honor to introduce the President of the United States. And especially to all my union brothers and sisters that are here. Me and my friend Reed drove up from Pittsburgh. We're both retired Teamsters. Nothing affected our lives more than the Butch-Lewis Act. And I'm a second-generation Teamster from Local 249 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Actually, President Biden started his campaign 4 years ago at our Teamster Temple in Pittsburgh, and he's been the greatest friend of labor in my lifetime, if not history. And I just wanted to give you a little personal part of how the Butch-Lewis Act affected me. So after 8 years of retirement and 35 years of paying into my pension as an active driver, and I drove for the local grocery chain, I was notified by the Western Pennsylvania Teamster Pension Fund that our pension fund was in critical and declining condition. So this is after 8 years of retirement. So what we were faced with was either taking a 30% cut to our pension or let it go bankrupt in a couple of years because it was in critical and declining condition. So we voted to take a 30% cut. So as far as I went, I was lucky enough to have 35 years, paying into the pension, and I left there. So I was getting $3,500 a month, which was a nice pension. So the 30% cut to me meant $1,000 a month. So that's a pretty substantial cut to any working man, especially, you've planned your retirement with, your pension, your Social Security, if you had lucky enough to have a 401k. So it was devastating, and it was, I was looking forward to a comfortable retirement with, like I said, the Social Security and the 401. But, I was in a little bit better shape than some. I had my house and car paid off, but some people had mortgages, car payments, and they're helping their kids with college. And some were just having to cut back for groceries and medication. I mean, it was a 30% cut, so not everyone took the same amount, but 30% is 30% no matter how much you were getting. So the Butch-Lewis Act, which was introduced, Butch-Lewis was a Teamster from Cincinnati, Ohio, who had introduced this act that would save these pensions, so to make us whole again. And the previous administration obviously did nothing to forward the Butch-Lewis Act. And many of the people were, living on the edge. And I myself thought I was never going to get that money back. The other administration sat on that for 2 years. But when President Biden was elected, he included the Butch-Lewis Act in the American Rescue Plan. And I forgot I got my glasses on there. As soon as he came to office, and Vice President Harris, when it came up for a vote, it was a tie vote. Vice President Harris cast a tie-breaking vote. So when you go to vote, just remember, not a single Republican in Congress voted to save thousands of union pensions. So, and this just wasn't for Teamsters. I mean, this has saved thousands of pensions across the country, from union musicians to bricklayers to Teamsters to sheet metal workers and many of the other trades. So I personally thought I was never going to get this pension back, but because of the, this great piece of legislation, my 30% cut was restored, and I got a 37-month back paycheck. So. So for me personally, that was $1,000 a month restored, and I got a back paycheck for $37,000. Which I did have to pay taxes on, but that wasn't too bad. That was huge. And, people now are always complaining about inflation and stuff and, Facebook warrior stuff, and I'm like, for that money, I was able to buy a lot of groceries, put some gas in the truck, and invest a little bit in the record-setting stock market that we have. I just wanted to end with a grateful thank you to President Biden and Vice President Harris for all the families that benefited from this great victory, for the working families of America. It matters when you have a president and vice president who has your back and who sees you and believes in you. And it's why here in the proud Union state of Pennsylvania, I'm honored to introduce the most union-friendly president in American history. Please welcome one of our own, President Joe Biden. I'm not him. I'm not him. I'm not him. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Dean. I live in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania with my wife and 2 children. I've been a UFCW 1776 member for 36 years at Acme Markets. The last 8 of those years, I've had the honor of being the shop steward at my store, 3788 in Bryn Mawr. When I first became a shop steward, other than the day-to-day duties, I would often get hit from senior union members, "Hey John, what's going on with the pension?" After going to a few meetings and gathering information, I had the answers, and they weren't good. Our pension was about to become insolvent in late 2025 or early 2026, and the only chance of fixing that was to get the Butch-Lewis Act passed. But with a Republican-controlled Congress and Donald Trump as president, that task seemed virtually impossible. In 2020, suddenly there was hope with the election of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. The first major piece of legislation they passed was the American Rescue Plan. The American Rescue Plan provided funding for COVID vaccine distribution and testing, as well as the child tax credit. The act also had the Butch-Lewis Act involved. This act saved multi-employer pension funds that were in trouble through no fault of their own. For once, there was a bailout for working people instead of corporations. President Biden signed the American Rescue Plan on March 11, 2021, and it was life-changing for our members and their families. Thanks to the Biden-Harris administration, our pension, which was on the verge of being insolvent by 2026, is now secure into the 2050s. I know I'm not the only shop steward who's had the opportunity to have senior members retire knowing that thanks to this legislation, they can retire with the dignity we all deserve. So on behalf of myself and the members of UFCW 1776, past and present, we would all like to say, thank you, Joe.
The pension was owed to you. We owe you a lot more than that. You know, the reason this country's working because the middle class is growing. Middle class built this country, and unions built the middle class. Look, it's always great to be working with men and women in the great union movement. You know, Wayne Miller of the Sprinkler Fitters, Local 692, who, in fact, thanks for hosting us today. Wayne, my staff says you even fed them. I don't know, I'm going to worry about going home. And Wendell Young, UFCW, 1776. And Bill Hamilton, president of Pennsylvania Conference of Teamsters. I also want to thank the great champions of working people here. Brendan Boyle's a hell of a guy, man. He stuck with, no. And Mary Gay Scanlon. I tell you, I think I heard a reputation because, you know what? I found out, once you become elected president, I'm only the second Catholic ever elected. When I headed to Ireland, they did all this background stuff on me, where I'm from. Well, it turns out, I showed her today, I got it in writing, we're related. I tell you what, and Madeline Dean, where are you, Madeline? Hey, back there. And Donald Norcross. Hey, Donald. And our acting Secretary of Labor, Julie Sue, is doing an incredible job. And the guy, if you're in trouble, you're in a foxhole, man, you want him with you. That guy right there, what's his name? Bobby, good to see you, Bobby. You're great. I'm serious. He's always there. Look, know the simple truth, as I said. Wall Street, please, if you have seats, take them. Look, I'm not joking around when I say that, I come from Delaware. I represented Delaware for 36 years in the United States Senate. And by the way, for 36 years, each year they list the poorest man in Congress. Oh, I'm not joking. 36 years. I was House and Senate, the poorest man in Congress. Never thought myself poor, but I guess came from a typical middle-class family. They're breaking your neck. My dad used to have an expression, say, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. A job's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about being treated with respect. It's about being able to look people in the eye. It's being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and know it's real. That's what this is all about, man. I'm so sick and tired of the corporate notion of that if corporations do well, we all do well. I want corporations to do well as long as their employees do well. But man, the way it's working now and the way it's been working, not been working so well. Look, so I mean what I say. Wall Street did not build this country. They're not bad guys. They're just a little greedy sometimes, but they're not bad guys. But the middle class built the country. And it's not a joke. You guys built the middle class for real. There would be no middle class. Look, just since I've been elected, and I'm proud to be listed as the most pro-union president in American history, the middle class has grown. The middle class is growing. We're the best economy in the world right now because of you. Thank you, John Dean and John Pisco, both Johns, for the introduction. And most of all, thanks for sharing your stories. Look, think about what they just described. You all understand it well, but the folks maybe listening don't quite understand as much. It's a story so many union workers could tell about working for decades to raise a family. Working for decades, I remember my dad lost a pension. We lived in a 3-bedroom house, split-level home, and down in Wilmington, Delaware, when they're in a suburban area of Wilmington, when they're building like 44 homes, the same kind of homes. They were a decent home, but we had 4 kids living there and a grandpa. And I remember how restless my dad was one night because my wall of my bedroom was up against his when me and my 2 brothers were in that room. And I asked Mom next morning, I said, what's the matter? He said, but Dad, he just lost his pension. Just lost his pension. Putting money away from paycheck to paycheck for a dignified retirement, knowing that when the time comes that pension you've earned will be there, is critical, just for peace of mind. It has phenomenal impacts on how marriages work and how families hold together when you have that knowledge, because there's so much pressure. But then you retire and find out all those years of work and sacrifice are slashed through no fault of your own. None. Imagine what that does financially, emotionally, and to your dignity. It's wrong. It's just simply wrong. It should have never happened, never. But then think about what it means to be made whole again. To have your lives, your pension restored. Not only you don't have to worry about it, but about what you're going to be able to do. It matters. It matters. 4 years ago, Kamala and I inherited a pandemic that was raging and the economy was reeling. So we went to work right away and we enacted the American Rescue Plan that did a lot more than just pension, for the most significant economic relief package in the history of America. Delivered immediate relief to folks that need it most. But not a single this is what's changed. I was in the Senate long. I know I'm going to look like I'm 40, but I'm a little older. But all kidding aside, we used to have real differences in the Senate. But at least when the critical things, we'd end up getting together. But not anymore. This is a different deal we're working with. Not a single solitary Republican in the House or the Senate, not one, voted to help with the pensions. Not one single one. No, it's not so much about, it's the way things have gotten. You know, it's like you either vote the right way of one guy wants it or you're in trouble. It's wrong. It's not who the hell we are. I believe a lot of those Republicans who voted no thought it was wrong. But they're afraid to vote the right way. As part of the American Rescue Plan, Kamala and I work like hell to include the Butch-Lewis Act to protect the pension of millions of union workers and retirees from Pennsylvania throughout Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, all across America. Simply put, the Butch-Lewis Act is the most significant investment in pension security for union workers and retirees in over 50 years. And I might add, it's not enough. We got to do a hell of a lot more, but I'll get to that in a moment. And again, every guy in the other team voted against it. Every single one. Think about that. Before the Butch-Lewis Act became the law of the land, union workers and retirees faced cuts of up to 70% or more of the retirement benefits through no fault of their own, none. But now, because of what Kamala and I did in Congress, and folks like Brendan Boyle and others, because of the labor leaders that are here, because of many of you, pensions of millions of union workers and retirees are protected. Food warehouse workers, truck drivers, scores of others don't worry anymore about the benefits being cut, because now they know, because of what we've done, they'll receive the full amount of their pensions they've worked hard for, and they'll receive it for decades to come. Folks, look, for all those retirees whose benefits are already cut, as you heard today, and many of you hopefully benefited as well, they'll be made whole again. All you lost will be made up. And those with benefits restored retroactively. But folks, that's what I call a pretty big deal. Folks, so I came to North Philly today to announce major progress we made in implementing the Butch-Lewis Act. But this morning, the U.S. Department of Labor released a report which shows that since we passed the law in March of 2021, we've already protected the pension of over 1.2 million workers and retirees. And that includes over 65,000 workers and retirees across Pennsylvania alone. For retirees whose benefits are cut or at risk of being cut, we've paid them back more than $1.6 billion so far. That's about $13,600 already paid back in the pockets of each retiree, and some are even more. It's a game changer. Today I'm also announcing $684 million from the Butch-Lewis Act to restore pensions for additional 29,000 members of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union. You earned it. Don't thank me, thank you. You shouldn't have to thank anybody. You shouldn't have to thank anybody. Look, there are nearly 11,000 workers and retirees living right here in Pennsylvania. For years and years, union workers have been driving trucks from factories to stores, bagging your groceries, constructing your buildings, your bridges, your roads. We need to do so much more. For iron workers, bricklayers, carpenters, laborers, plumbers, truck drivers, food workers, and more. These workers are working hard today. They deserve a secure retirement they've earned for the rest of their lives. Folks, look, we're just getting started. By the way, that little big bill we passed for, dealing with infrastructure, $1.3 trillion, that's what that bill is worth. Remember the last guy when he was president, he said every week we're going to have infrastructure week. Joe got it done. He didn't do a damn thing. But you know, too many of them face painful cuts to the benefits they worked so hard and counted on. Some of you losing 40, 50, 70% up to your pensions through no fault of your own. That's why the Lewis Act is so important to pass in the first place. And when it comes to office, when I came to office, I was determined to restore guaranteed pensions that were earned and paid into. I was also determined to fundamentally transform the way the economy works for everyone. You know, I got so sick and tired of the trickle-down economics. Remember that's how it worked? The rich, if they do well, they'll pay their taxes and they'll trickle down, we'll all benefit. Well, not a hell lot trickle down to my father's kitchen table. No, I'm not joking. I'm dead earnest here. To grow the economy, we decided to change the way we did it. And if you know, there's no reason why you would notice, but all the international economic publications are talking about it now. I decided we're going to grow the economy from the middle out and the bottom up. When the middle class does well, everybody does well. The wealthy do well. Put workers first. Support unions. Invest in all Americans. When we do these things, we do well. That's what we're seeing. 16 million new jobs created just so far. The greatest job creation record of any single presidential term in American history. 1.6 million manufacturing and construction jobs. And where is it written that America can't lead the world in manufacturing? I got so tired of hearing that we can't. Come on, man. No, I'm serious. Think about it. We have the best workers in the world. That's not hyperbole. That's a fact. When I decided to bring back the chips industry back, we invented that little chip that goes in all those computers. We invented it. We used to have 40% of the market. We got down to 4% of the market. Well, guess what? I told my staff, even they thought I was crazy. I said, I'm going to South Korea. I'm going to sit down with them and make sure that we start making this stuff home. So that was Samsung. They invested $15 billion coming back to the United States to build those chips here and build those factories here. But over 60 billion more is being made here. And it's just getting started. We're just getting started. These fabs, they call them, they're the biggest football fields. These fabs, you know what the average salary is? $110,000 a year, and you don't need a college degree. And we're just getting started. This past week, we get very encouraging news about the economy. Inflation continues to drop. Remember they said, Biden's going to get elected, there's going to be a recession. Give me a freaking break. We got it back down from goes to 9% down to nearly 2%, which means people have more money in their pockets now than did before the pandemic, and we're continuing to see economic growth. Today, union workers are modernizing American infrastructure, roads, bridges, airports, ports, clean water, affordable high-speed internet for every Pennsylvanian, not some, every. And thanks to the bipartisan infrastructure law, Pennsylvania has received $18 billion so far for 2,000 projects. So far. And that includes $1 billion for the city of Philadelphia in a few months since Mayor Parker's been in office. They already got $1 billion to it. Look, folks, I signed an executive order to make sure large federal construction projects use project labor agreements that are negotiated. Not a joke. Negotiated between union and companies before the construction begins, because we make sure construction is top-notch, on time, and on budget. And by the way, employers are starting to figure it out. Not a joke. I told you about Samsung. When I said, why are you coming to the United States? Said two reasons. One, you have the best workers in the world. Here, I'm not a joke. Most qualified workers. People think, I wish union would start talking about what it takes to become whatever you decide to be, whether anything from electrician to whatever. You have to do somewhere between 4 and 5 years of apprenticeship. It's like going back to school, man, like going to college. But people don't know it. People don't know it. We got to talk more about it. So people who aren't in unions understand just how damn qualified you are and how hard you work to get to where you are. You know, Buy American used to be the law of the land. By that it is, look, the way it works is supposed to work. From back in the 30s, when they were trying to bust unions and prevent them from coming into being in the first place. But they passed a law under Roosevelt, which said that if you're going to form a union, you can't do the following things to try to break the union. But there was a provision in there, and that nobody paid attention to. It said, and when the president spends money given to him by the Congress to do something for the country, he has to use American products, and he has to use American workers. Nobody did it. No, not a joke. Well, every damn penny I've been sent by the United States Congress has been gone to use American product and American workers. Every one. Not a joke. It's why we're growing so well. Federal projects helping build American roads, bridges, highways are now being made with American products, built by American workers, creating good paying American jobs. In fact, we're requiring those kinds of projects to pay Davis-Bacon wages for every single family out there. Look, folks, many of those jobs don't require a college degree, but in fact, we extended the registered apprenticeship program. Remember when the corporation said, don't worry, we'll take care of training, we'll take care of apprenticeships? Give me a break. So what did we do? We decided we were going to make sure they were available. The result being over 1 million apprentices since we've come to office. 1 million new apprentices have come to office. And like I said, a lot of folks don't realize an apprenticeship is like earning a college degree. An apprenticeship, you train for 4 or 5 years. They're some of the best workers in the world. Kamal and I have always believed that National Labor Relations Board should be pro-labor. But those of you involved in leading unions, you know what it's been under the last guy. Anti-labor people put on the Labor Relations Board. Not anymore. Not anymore. That's why one of the most significant things we've done is appoint National Labor Relations Board members who actually believe in unions and believe in your right to organize. As I said, I'm honored to be considered the most pro-union president in American history, and I'm proud to be the first president to walk a picket line. And Kamala is proud to have walked a picket line as well. The other guy looks for picket lines to cross, but we've always had your back. We've always had your back. Well, look, I don't want to get going here. We owe you so much. I really mean it. The country owes you so much. Let me close with this. When I was being raised in Scranton, where my dad taught me something that always stuck with me. And I mentioned to you before that a job is a lot more than a paycheck. And it really is, think about it. Think about what it is. It's about your dignity. It's about how you're treated. It's about how people look at you, look up to you, not down at you. It's about your place in the community. It's about being able, as I said, to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it. Mean it. That's the value set I learned here in Pennsylvania. The value set that's at the core of the American labor market, union market. A movement made up of extraordinary people like you. And I'm not just trying to be nice, man. I'm not running again. You're stuck with me. And the one thing I don't think anybody can argue is I never haven't done what I've said I'm going to do. So, unlike someone we honor today, Butch Lewis, joining us today is his wife, Rita. Rita, where are you? Come on up here. Come on up here. Rita and Butch are childhood sweethearts. Butch played baseball, drafted by the Pirates, by the way, out of high school. Come over here for me. We'll walk over there in a minute. And he enlisted in the Army instead. Special Forces, Army Ranger, served in Vietnam. Earned the Bronze Star and the Purple Heart. Came back home to Rita, settled in Cincinnati, became a Teamsters trucker, and then president of his local. known as an honorable, honest, decent labor leader. That's who he was. Bush faced severe cuts in pensions and became a fierce advocate of protecting those pensions for fellow workers. He died almost 9 years ago. And Rita, you've carried on his legacy ever since then. This is a woman who didn't stop. Together with Democrats in the Congress, the Bush-Lewis Act I signed into law now protects pensions for millions of American workers, and it matters. Rita, can you please join me over here? Can you all hear me from here?
The Citizens Medal is given to citizens of the United States of America who have performed exemplary deeds of service for their country or their fellow citizens. A fierce labor leader, Butch Lewis helped to protect hard-earned pensions of millions of Americans. He passed up a shot at professional baseball, instead serving our nation as a decorated Army Ranger in Vietnam. He spent 40 years as a trucker, teamster, and union leader, fighting for the dignity of work and solidarity of workers across Ohio and the country. A man of humility and warmth, he inspired everyone around him, embodying the simple truth that the middle class built America and unions built the middle class.
This is on the verge of being inappropriate. What am I doing here? I want to see you do
I can see through these tears. I don't know if I can.
I'll tell you what, I'm not going to pray.
Oh, no, you're not. You never would. But I've never had a present.
Hey. My dad had another expression. He used to say, for real. Remember, Joey, family is the beginning, the middle, and the end. Thank you all for being loyal to one another, not forgetting where you come from, and sticking with those you need to help. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Maria Zuber, one of the co-chairs of the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. And on behalf of my co-chairs, Arthi Prabhakar and Francis Arnold, I'd like to welcome PCAST members and the public to this public session. I'd like to remind everyone that the meeting is being live streamed to the public and it is being recorded. The recording of this session and materials presented will be available by next week on the PCAST website. During the presentations, we ask all other virtual participants to turn off your videos. Once the presentations are concluded, please turn on your videos for the discussion. I would like to remind virtual PCAST members to participate in the discussion by using the raised hand function on Zoom. I'd like to announce this morning the resignation of Frances Colon. She resigned from PCAST on October 7th, 2024. Frances was a significant contributor to PCAST. During her tenure, she contributed to our report on greenhouse gas emissions, to our letter report on the federal STEM workforce of the future. And she co-chaired our study on advancing nutrition science, which calls for ensuring equitable access to the benefits of nutrition research. We thank Frances for her service, and we acknowledge her historic appointment as the first Hispanic woman named to PCAST in its history. Let me give you an overview of today's meeting. We have 3 public sessions which are centered on PCAST products to the President. The first session will be a discussion and a vote on a letter to President Biden urging him to prioritize federal R&D funding in the upcoming appropriation cycle. The second and third sessions will be to discuss and vote on 2 reports entitled A Review of the Networking and Information Technology Research and Development Program and Improving Groundwater Security in the United States. Arthur or Frances, would you like to add anything?
Just want to say welcome to everyone. It's great to see you, and I look forward to a very interesting day.
Same here, and I think we've got some great topics, so we'll get into it.
Okay, so away we go. All right, so we're going to begin today. Our first topic is a discussion, a letter to the President on prioritizing the value and importance of federally funded research and development. So let me provide some framing comments which describe a draft letter that we've put together, and then we will open it up for discussion among PCAST members. Okay, so in advising the President, we offer ways that science and technology can help Americans. Doing this requires the collection, analysis of data, and the design and implementation of new tools. In short, it requires ideas and discovery, and part of that is educating and supporting scientists and technologists to do their work. Next chart, please. As PCAST members, we are in an especially good position to advise on the importance of federal R&D funding. The Council includes members from both academia and industry who participate in all parts of the R&D ecosystem. Next chart, please. So the bottom line here is that our high quality of life and the vibrant economic prosperity that we have is built upon federal R&D. Think about what federal R&D contributes: health advances, addressing climate change, national security, workforce development, economic growth, and opportunity for all Americans. Next chart, please. So overall, in the United States, R&D funding is spread across both the public and private sectors, and it's estimated to be about 3.5% of GDP. However, this impressive level of investment is driven by the private sector, and this actually speaks well for the strength of America's private sector. However, our strong private sector in all areas, not just private sector R&D, is built upon prior federal investments. Federal investments benefit industry in many ways. It's the basis for stimulating new ideas, for developing new products and services, for assessing and managing risks, and for educating the workers that have been trained in university labs that are overwhelmingly funded by federal R&D. Next chart, please. Federal investment is also critical for public missions and public responsibilities in areas of national security, in health, in clean energy and addressing the climate crisis, space exploration, and expanding the frontiers of knowledge. The government essentially is the driver of expanding the frontiers of knowledge, and we depend upon them for that. Next chart, please. So there has been important progress with great support from the President, Vice President in R&D funding during this administration. So from FY 21 to 23, federal R&D funding increased from $16 billion in FY 21 to $200 billion in FY 23. There were new investments. We had the initiation of ARPA-H, the TIP Directorate at NSF, and then we had some important legislative bipartisan bills, $11 billion for R&D from the CHIPS and Science Act, and then the Infrastructure Reduction Act. Next chart, please. However, in FY 24, progress was stalled due to budget caps. The total funded for federal R&D stalled at $200 billion in FY 24. Non-defense R&D decreased from $101 billion in FY 23 to an estimated $91 billion in FY 24. So non-defense R&D declined by an estimated 10%. Okay. Now, if you think about the impact, say in a university laboratory, you can't just fund 90% of your graduate student. Okay. There were cuts across the federal science agencies, NSF, NIST, NASA, NOAA, all received important cuts that impacted ongoing programs. The budget caps also constrained the president's budget request for FY 25 to $202 billion. Next chart, please. But there are encouraging signs. A bipartisan group of senators is calling for significant R&D growth. The bipartisan Senate AI working group is calling for $32 billion in annual non-defense AI R&D, and this would include broad federal R&D as necessary for U.S. AI leadership by calling for funding essentially a science part of the CHIPS and Science Act, which was authorized but never appropriated. And PCAST is in a good position to advocate this because we've discussed AI's role with the president on multiple occasions and written a report talking about the importance of AI for future discovery. Next chart. So in summary here, we are asking for prioritization of federal R&D funding. We recommend prioritizing R&D in negotiations with Congress on the FY25 appropriations, and we encourage the identification of other legislative opportunities like the one that I just talked about for investment in R&D. So investment in R&D is an investment in the future of the nation. So that's the gist of the letter that we have drafted, and I'd now like to open this up for discussion among the PCAST members. Okay. So Bill Dolly, why don't you start us off here?
Sure. So it's a great letter, and I think it's really important to put this forward as a national priority. I think there are a couple of things that need to be emphasized in the letter. One is that of national competitiveness. It is mentioned, in sort of the second to last paragraph, how China is investing heavily in R&D, and so whereas we are sort of cutting back, they are pushing forward, and I think we run the risk of them surpassing us and being the leader in science and technology if we don't, push forward and invest in our future. The other is really to connect the dots between federal R&D and industrial R&D and industrial prosperity. It's great that private sector is putting huge amounts of money into R&D, but most of that is going into D, and a very large amount of that D is enabled by previous federal spending on the research side of R&D. So I think it's very important to keep the pipeline full, where federal spending on research leads to industrial spending on development, which leads to prosperity for everybody in the United States.
Thanks, Bill. Saul Perlmutter.
Just to make that more concrete, I was going to suggest that in the letter, if it would be possible to make it really clear that there's a balance of you invest in this on the research side, and then you get that out in the industrial side. So maybe just walking through in one paragraph some examples of, we saying that was very basic research was, general relativity, but we got GPS, basic research of mRNA, and we get vaccines, basic research of convolutional neural networks, and then we end up getting AI. And then imagining what the exciting next generation would be. Maybe a couple of examples. If we invest in this, we might get that. I know something with like quantum, computing. And then the imagination of what that would look like if we were doing it in the U.S. and we were attracting the leading minds to the U.S. to do these things versus what it would look like if it was happening in Europe or happening in China, and we were watching all of our leading minds move to those countries, as we could easily imagine happening, and we've seen some of it.
Thanks, Saul. Eric Horvitz.
Thanks very much. It's a very good letter. I think it could be strengthened, building upon some comments we just heard, in thinking about the complementarity between industry research and federally funded R&D. Industry research has been assisting with tracking total country R&D at GDP, but federal funding is not. And industry research cannot make up for the losses we would see and the potential gains with open, curiosity-driven research at this very critical time, unique time where AI and biology, for example, are coming together in very new ways, where space, physics, and chemistry are coming together in new ways. Focusing on enhancing what we say about the health, well-being, and vitality of this nation, coming from curiosity-driven research on multi-year journeys, for example, with doctoral dissertations, which you don't see in industry, which has a much shorter time horizon and much more of a focus on products and the bottom line, as well as for national defense when it comes to these opportunity areas. And needless to say, training is critical for industry. Having the supply chain of talent, I'll call it the inspiration chain, when it comes to people that are trained to think out of the box about new directions and new ideas, will be critical.
Okay, thanks. John Banovitz.
Maybe I'll add in the voice of the industry as well through this, but I think it's important that the letter continue to stress the economic prosperity and the impact that federal R&D can have, and how it pulls through. I echo what Bill said around the R part and the D part. Industry tends to do the D part, and the federal R&D does the R part of that. And it's critical because the federal R&D budget helps it, as you said, Maria, expands the frontiers of knowledge, but that pulls companies forward, that pushes them forward, it pushes them into new areas. There's collaboration and connections that happen through federal R&D that don't happen without it, between industry and between academics or national labs or whoever. Without that funding, without that group, that doesn't happen. It doesn't push things forward as well. It provides the de-risking of opportunities for companies. They can see opportunities, they can see the risk, they can see and evaluate the risk as things go forward. So besides, obviously, things like talent development and others are important, but it really is a catalyst for the long-term health of the national economy.
Thank you. Let's go online to Andrea.
Thanks. It is a good letter, and I agree with the comments about strengthening it.
I also want to make the point that our investment in basic R&D has been critical for the United States to attract and retain the very best minds from around the world in science and technology. And that's not only drawing them to explore curiosity-driven research, some of which may have short-term translation to practice within a few years, and sometimes it's decades and sometimes it's never. But also so much of our entrepreneurial ecosystem has been driven by faculty and graduate students and postdocs that come into the university system funded by basic research dollars, do some breakthroughs, and then go out and start companies. And so our investment in basic research is not only important for training the workforce, but also in keeping our entrepreneurial ecosystem vibrant.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Francis Arnold.
I definitely agree with what Andrea Goldsmith just said. When you think about it, our population is a small fraction of the world's population, which means that the truly creative brains are mostly born elsewhere. And so we need to continue to welcome those brains into the United States. But I also wanted to point out that PCAST is very lucky because we have true industry leaders on PCAST who have provided critical advice. However, I'd like to point out, and that support for federal R&D to support those ideas is very important. But I'd like to point out that basic research is what starts the whole innovation cycle and creates whole new industries. So some of you are in those brand new industries, and that will not continue. That cycle of innovation will not continue without that continued support for basic research. So I hope that the letter points that out.
Great point. Paula Hammond.
Yes, I like to agree with my colleagues and add that the training of our workforce, particularly at interdisciplinary interfaces, which is where the growth of science and technology is right now, is greatly funded by the exploratory work and the even more applied research that takes place through these federal dollars. And losing these dollars, we lose that opportunity. I also wanted to note that it would be interesting to look at and maybe include in the letter some note about the workforce directly. So there may be a way to incorporate some numbers with respect to trainees associated with grants over a certain period of time. These are trainees that then go out into industry with these new skill sets, often at these interfaces, and help us to grow the fields that are so critical to our nation's growth.
Right. Thank you, Paula. Let's go online to John DeBerry.
Well, actually, Paula just said it very well. I wanted to emphasize a point that you made, Maria, about the inability to fund 90% of a graduate student. Even though we sometimes think of universities as focusing on basic research, they're often training the talent that will go and do the D that Bill Daly was talking about, the development in industry. So it's vitally important, I think, that we continue this support for research universities as the places where we're training that future talent. And I think this letter does a nice job of emphasizing that point.
Great. Thank you. Bill Press.
Yeah, thanks. We've had the privilege to address and advise this administration, but I think it's important to point out that this is a letter that addresses an issue that carries over to future administrations, and in particular is largely, if not completely, bipartisan. I don't think there's much political disagreement about the role of R&D, both in helping the national prosperity and in assisting in the international competition for prosperity. So I think that this is an important issue to put on the table, even now as we approach the end of an administration.
Great. Thank you for that important point, Bill. Let's go to Jen Richardson.
Thanks. I also want to echo what my colleagues have said and the importance of this, and just want to point out that it's the federal investments in research that are broadly and publicly soliciting proposals from across the nation and pockets of, places in the nation that might not have a company that's innovating and doing wonderful research and development in its private space. And so it's the federal investments that we often find the gem that's been overlooked. And whether they're individuals and we cultivate that talent, or ideas or scientists working in all different types of institutions. And that part can't be replaced by research and development by private companies. And we don't want to lose that.
Great. Thanks, Jen. John Levin.
I really appreciate the remarks of colleagues about the catalytic effects of federally funded research for both entrepreneurship and industry, and the effects on training. I wanted to add 2 points about timing. I think this is a particularly important time to be investing in federally funded R&D. There's more competition internationally for scientific leadership than there has been in recent years. And you see that in the rising publications from China, for instance. And that means it's important for the US to invest to retain its scientific leadership. And also, as this group has emphasized in earlier reports, it's a period of great opportunity with all of the advances in machine learning and artificial intelligence that are going to accelerate scientific discovery across a whole range of disciplines. The return on investment right now is probably particularly high, even relative to the recent past.
Great. Thanks, John. Let's go online to Dan Arvizu.
Yes, thank you. And also very much in support of the themes in the report, or in the letter report. Also want to just kind of maybe expand a little bit and just highlight what John Levin just talked about, and a few of the others have already mentioned regarding the scientific ecosystem of the country, that basic research from the federal government sponsors throughout the entire country at universities and other places. And it's important to recognize that other countries, and not just China, but in Europe, they're making huge investments in some of the things that relate to discovery science. And our researchers are not able to participate in those endeavors that are funded by other federal governments in other countries. Well, we need to have our own support of our ecosystem and our future science and technology workers. So this letter, I think, goes a long way toward developing that, and it's consistent with, I think, the other comments that the other members have made. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dan. Kathy Wotecki.
Thanks. I'd like to express my support for the sentiment expressed within this letter from all of us, and also to reflect a little bit on the use of seed corn as the metaphor for the importance of this very important federal investment. And also, I think we might point out in the letter that there are some areas of science in which the Chinese investment already greatly exceeds the US investment. And one of them is in agricultural research. And that's happened just in the last 7-8 years. That has big implications for the public good agenda that we also emphasize in this letter, but we might want to call out if there are some other areas as well in which our competitiveness is eroding.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. And I'll just note that China expressed that it's going to increase its R&D investment next year by 10%. So, Dennis Sasanis.
Yes, first of all, I call my colleagues strongly support preparing this letter, not only to thank the president as a reminder of the wonderful work that he has done over his tenure, but also for many other readers in the country who should be supporting basic research and federal R&D funding. And I will say that truly the idea that if we do more industry and less than a university or basic funding is a false dichotomy. I want to emphasize that some of the most successful stories that we have in the country are from consortia where government put the fuel, and there were industry university partnerships. So we can think about the development, manufacturing of new biopharmaceuticals to address cancer, the innovations in clean energy and hydrogen to bring this economy to life, taking the synergies of various interdisciplinary areas like the brain science, the quantum science to address neurological disorders. We can have a lot of those type of success stories, which are very important. I mean, the use inspired, the problem that is brought to the university from industry, and then adding our own trade and our skills to add to what the country needs and continue to fuel the innovation economy is critical.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Laura, do you have a comment?
Thank you very much. I support the letter and I also support everything that was said. And Kathy's statement on seed corn, that's also true in quantum materials, the thing that will be feeding into the AI revolution. And so China has greatly exceeded the research into discovering new materials that might be used for future sensors and quantum materials, testing them, and many, many other things. And right now, if you want to use some of the facilities, we can't use some of the facilities, whether it's high magnetic field, high light sources, high pressure, all these things are needed to discover the next qubit for the next quantum material or the next technological useful material like a superconductor.
Great, thank you. Let's go online to Vicky Sato.
Thank you. My apologies. My video doesn't seem to be activatable. But I just wanted to echo Kathy's comment about the seed corn, an area in which the United States has been the world leader for 50 years or more, has been in the area of life sciences. Biomedical research has enabled this country to really contribute to our own health and welfare, but that of the world. And for the first time, both publications and patent filings are arising and chasing our leadership, and in some cases surpassing that. So I think it's a reflection of the fact that continued momentum and investment in basic research is essential for the translation of that innovation into economically meaningful advance.
Okay, thank you very much, Vicky. And the time has come for who? Oh, Terry. Oh my God, we can't go ahead without Terry getting
Well, okay. I guess I'll make it quick. First of all, I very much agree that it's really important that the US retain its competitiveness to attract leading talent. You know, I myself was very attracted to the United States as a graduate student, and I've stayed here ever since. One point I wanted to make was that federal funding not only sort of spurs private sector investment, but it also actually spurs philanthropy. So a lot of research is also funded by nonprofits, and having the imprimatur of federal support of a pilot project often can catalyze. There's a multiplier effect where it also you also attract other sources of funding as well. So.
Great, thank you, Terry. Any other comments? Okay, in that case, we're going to put this letter to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Abstain? Okay, thank you for all that. So, so let me note that this letter will be published and it will be shared with the president in the coming weeks. We need to allow some time to edit the letter in response to all of the important comments that you made here in this discussion. And when the letter will go up, be released to the public, and it'll go up on the PCAST website in the coming weeks. Okay, so thank you. And now I'm going to turn things over to Frances Arnold to chair the next part of the session.
Thanks, Maria. We're now going to move to a review of the Networking and Information Technology Research and Development, or NITERD, program. As you know, this is a tremendously important technology space whose importance is only increasing in impact, especially with the evolution of artificial intelligence and machine learning. So we're here to discuss the PCAST report on a program that exists to provide the federal government with a coordinated approach to managing networking and information technology R&D activities. that are funded by the federal government, but largely performed by academic, nonprofit, and private sector research organizations. And since 2005, the president has designated PCAST to carry out an independent review of this program every 3 years. So I'm going to introduce the co-leads of this review, Bill Press and Saul Perlmutter, who will describe what they learned and their recommendations.
Thanks, Francis. So if I could have the first slide. Oh, is that the first slide? Okay. That shows the members of our working group that included both PCAST members and several non-PCAST members who contributed, I think, enormously to the breadth of our discussion. If I could have the next slide. Yeah, I'll pause on this one for a while. I'm assuming that all the PCAST members, because you received the report, read it, and have some idea of what some of these acronyms are, how the program started, but I'll give a little bit of explanation for people who may be watching on the web. The NIDARD program, as we often pronounce it, goes back more than 30 years to a piece of legislation in the 1990s. And that legislation established some unique characteristics. First of all, the NIDARD program is not specifically dependent on annual appropriations because it's a coordination effort among multiple agencies who are choosing, in essence, to contribute their own funds to the program. The program has no sunset. Could have been in the legislation to sunset it, but it wasn't in the legislation. And so it has gone on for this more than 30 years, being reviewed periodically by PCAST, as well as internally within OSTP. And we this PCAST, we were tasked with this review. So the NIDARD program really is a framework for two things, and I'll discuss both of them. It's a budget roll-up for the benefit of each administration to see how key agencies are spending money on networking and information technology research and development. And then also through its National Coordination Office, it is a convening opportunity where the National Coordination Office works with a subcommittee of the NSTC, the National Science and Technology Council, allowing representatives from many agencies. I'm going to show you in a second the 5 principal ones, but there are really several dozen agencies that send representatives to these convening activities. Now, the final thing I'd add on this slide is that we, the working group, some of us at least, were actually rather skeptical when we first went into this effort. You know, a program that's been around 30 years, doesn't have a sunset clause. How can it remain fresh and useful for all that time? And if I can go to the next slide, I think what turned us around on this was simply talking to the people in government who value this program. And so here we have a list of the experts that we consulted. You'll see several within the Office of Science and Technology Policy, OSTP, but also people in the agencies, NIST, NIH, DOE, NSF in particular. I think that if when we occasionally express, maybe exaggerating to some of these people, hey, we wonder whether it's just time to sunset this thing, the sort of horror that came back to us and is telling us, no, this is really useful. You know, don't mess with something that is as useful as this is. So on the next slide, the next slide shows that on the right-hand side, what NIDARD calls program component areas or PCAs. And this is the budget roll-up. So for the agencies on the left, you can see that within their appropriated budget, in many different appropriation lines, how they feed into what are considered the national priorities as set by the S&T Council Subcommittee and the National Coordination Office on this. And for the most part, I would say it's not, there are no surprises here. So for example, if we skip down to the purple, NSF is supporting a lot of artificial intelligence. Of course, that makes sense. At the very top, DOE is noteworthy for its support of high capability computing infrastructure, and you see the biggest band there. A bit of a surprise on this slide is that the agency with the single largest budget roll-up into NITRD is NIH, which you might not have expected. Of course, the biggest band there, as you see, goes into large-scale data management and analysis, which, of course, in anything health-related is an obvious mission of NIH. But I'll come back to this question of what does it mean in the budget roll-up for NIH to be as large as it is, and what can we learn from that in a constructive way? So now on to the next slide. I'm going to just summarize our findings and recommendations here, keeping the slides to a minimum. So it's a little bit telegraphic, but again, I'm relying on the fact that the PCAST members have seen in draft the whole report. And again, as talking to all those experts, we wanted to make our first finding be the very clear positive one, that this program, despite its legislative age, continues to be useful and cost effective, in the sense that the actual cost of the program is very small. It's the convening activities and the support of the small NCO office. Having said that, we wouldn't be PCAST if we didn't try to find ways to improve a program that we're mandated to review. And so our subsequent findings should be taken as opportunities to improve on an already useful and cost-effective program. If I can go to the next slide. The National Coordination Office puts out a number of, let me call them products, their reports, the budget roll-up, and so on. And in some cases, these are showing their age in the sense that there's a template that's been followed for a long time, and it's pretty easy to follow the same template and distribute the reports to the same, if I can call them, customer base, meaning federal officials across a wide range of government agencies. We think that this could be improved, these products, in their cadence, in their content, and that our recommendation is just that the NCO take this opportunity to look at that and see how what they're putting out matches the needs of their current, and, as I'll be discussing a lot, prospective customers. The next slide, please. In that sense, the NCO, we think, has become too narrow in its outreach. Now, by narrow, it's important to make clear we don't mean that it's reaching too few agencies. In fact, it's reaching, as I've said, several dozen agencies. But within those agencies, there's a group of people who are familiar with the program, who show up at the convening activities, who take back value. And we haven't seen the kind of effort that we think would be productive in reaching out to a broader base of federal officials, especially including those involved in the budgeting process and those making informed technology acquisition decisions. Because although the NITRD program is all about R&D, acquiring big IT systems certainly benefits from having a knowledge of what's going on in the D part of R&D especially. So we think that it could, without an unreasonable effort, make a connection to a broader set of stakeholders. Another separate issue is that last sub-bullet, NIDARD, because it has this legislative continuity more or less forever, as long as the United States shall stand, there will be this program unless Congress undoes it. That it really can be an institutional memory over the long term, because every administration has its priorities and has its activities. And sometimes there's a lack of continuity between administrations that NIDARD could step into that gap and help provide that continuity. The next slide, please. So our recommendation is essentially already told in those previous findings, that we think that the NCO office should and could readily survey its current customers as to how its products are meeting their needs, reach out to potential new customers and stakeholders who may not even know much about the NIDARD program, and explore how those products might help them. And then identify, how will we know if we've succeeded in this? Identify what are the goals, what are the metrics of this new reach out that we're recommending. Next slide, please. Similarly, there has been an explosion, a justified explosion of councils, committees, and so on across many, many agencies in the areas of information and data science and technology. And as I'll come to with a more specific recommendation later, AI is the sort of star of that right now. And we think there are a lot of opportunities for NIDARD to just be in the room for those things, because questions about the status of research and development can come up in those rooms. And we think, they should get their foot in the door there, even if they're the silent partners in the room, just there to provide resources for these separately chartered activities. Next slide, please. Now we come to the PCAs, the program component areas. Those were the things on the right-hand side of the snake diagram, which is formally called a Sankey diagram. It's good that the PCAs have constancy, because it allows longitudinal tracking across multiple years of how funding is in these various areas. On the other hand, if that were the only goal of the PCAs, we'd still be using the PCAs from 1990, which wouldn't be appropriate at all. And in fact, the PCAs have from time to time changed over the years, sometimes simply been clarified, but be essentially the same. There's always been and should probably remain, I should say, should certainly remain, a PCA for high performance computing, the hardware and the technology. But for example, AI was not a PCA if you go back 10 years, and clearly is one and needs to be one now. We think on balance, this would be a good time to refresh the PCAs, even though there would be some loss in the continuity of these long time series of functioning. We really are in a time where not only are the areas of emphasis of networking and information technology changing, for example, AI, but also its penetration and its essentiality for the federal mission is newly increased. And so we do recommend a kind of a zero-based refresh of the PCAs. What do we need now as a national strategy, and particularly on the budget roll-up, to understand where the R&D dollars are going? Next slide. You'll recall that NIH was the largest agency in the budget roll-up. A part of that reason is that as they're now chartered, the PCAs, the PCAs don't distinguish, in fact, have not been intended to distinguish